From the corner, and it rattles home.
Wow, what a TO, baby.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Altmaier steps up, drives the ball, and it is intercepted. J.T. Woods again. That is his second of the night.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
19-year-old true freshman quarterback stepping in for the injured Matt Corral, and then being brought down. Bryson Jackson with the sack and the turnover on downs.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Tressway averaging 51, and has that one blocked. And that's another touchdown for Dallas. This time it's Golston. Corey Clement came in and blocked it. And Golston winds up as the 19th Cowboy to score a touchdown this season.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It is a gorgeous Wednesday in Central Texas. Temperature has hit 70 and it's still cold in the morning, but it's just absolutely gorgeous, sunny skies, and so much more. And we've got the full throttle here today on the set, as we have been. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, but also today, Jack McKenzie and Emery, and Armstrong is back from a trip to Spain. And we'll get his input on that quick turnaround. He left on Friday and then came back late last night. And so he's back in the studio as well. And Jack is very thrilled with that. Jack did an incredible job. And another day maybe from Armstrong being gone. He could have been Wally pipped. I'm not sure. Maybe he is anyway.
Jack only made 20 or 30 mistakes, which is down from his usual 100. So he's getting better.
There's no camera. There's no finger camera, Jack, over there. Yeah. The chat room's going. Thank you very much, Daniel, Scotty, Paula, and more. 254-339-1122 is also the number. We'd love to hear from you today as well. Pat Nunley, Baylor color analyst, on the game tonight with Kansas State. We'll have Scotty Bordelon. He writes and covers Arkansas. They beat number 1 Auburn. Scott Drew in an interview we had from earlier this week today as well. And then Jim Nagy. He runs the the Reese's Senior Bowl. Is going to join us today at 4 o'clock along with John Machota with theathletic.com. I was expecting us to also get Brandon Marshall, former Bears, Denver, etc., wide receiver, but have not gotten that confirmed. And I didn't realize this, and just a note that the Super Bowl is going on, of course, this week, Rams and Bengals. He had 6 100-plus catches, reception years in his career. And he's like the only one of 2 players who have had 3 in a row. I didn't even realize that.
One of those all came in one game against Brandon Carr and the Cowboys on a Monday night. That I was covering. It felt like he caught 100 that night. It was one of those things. I'll tell you, it was one of the most educational nights I've ever had as a reporting a game, in that the Cowboys lost to a Bears team that wasn't as good as they were, but Brandon Marshall was there, and he dominated Brandon Carr. And Jerry Jones walked in the locker room and talked to Brandon Carr, and it was everybody. We were talking like, man, if the coaches should lay into Brandon Carr, he had a terrible game. If I were Jerry, I would just cut him right now. And that's what we think as people who watch and observers. And you watch Jerry Jones walked right up to Brandon Carr's locker, gave him a hug, like whispered in his ear, and left, which might be part of the problem that the Cowboys have. But it was very interesting that night. But Brandon Marshall, in just covering games, had one of the best games I've ever seen a human being have.
He's one of those big body guys, and he's been through a lot. He's been through depression. He's been through a lot of legal issues as well. And we might still get him. I'm waiting for his runner, so to speak, the one who's handling his time on Radio Row to call us. Now, tonight, Baylor is right behind, as you know, Kansas. Texas Tech right behind Kansas in the Big 12. Texas has jumped right on the edge of they're in the fray because of the win Monday night. I was told by coaches, and I've been told by others, that a must-win is only if it means you're done, if you don't win. But to me, there are, during a season, 1 or 2 times in which I think it really is kind of important, and especially when you've got Texas, who's now kind of got a little mojo, and Texas Tech on the road next Wednesday, and you have lost 4 of your last 8. So would you define tonight at Kansas State as a must-win?
No.
Okay.
But I would call it would be really, really, really important if you did win.
Yeah, I don't think it's a must-win. I think, we could do that for every game the rest of the way, really. I mean, we could do the must-win thing for every single game. They've only got, 7 games left? Is that right? 7 or 8 games left?
Yeah.
Regular season, I don't know. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. But, yeah, it's about 7 or 8 games left.
8 conference games.
8 conference. There you go. 8 games left. So, we could say must-win for every one of these games, because if they don't win tonight, guess what the next game is? It's a must-win game. If they don't win that game, that's a must-win game. So I don't think tonight's a must-win game, but I do think it's a very important opportunity for them to get back on track and get some confidence. Not that I feel like they probably lost a lot. I don't think Kansas, as bad as that looked, was like a confidence breaker, because I think this team's ultra confident in themselves. I think it was just a bad performance. But, yeah, you certainly don't want to see them go out there tonight and put up another similar performance, because then you start to have some questions about, all right, what's going on here? If you guys had this layoff after, you had 3 days basically to stew on that Kansas game, almost 4. If you come out after all that time and the practices and the talks with coaches and all that, and you play similarly, then that would be red flags everywhere. So I think it's important to see how they play tonight, but I don't think it's a must-win, as you said.
Yeah, and that's why I set up at the beginning. You're right, because must-win means that you have to win or something. Now, Kansas State, yeah, they're kind of right now playing the rest of the year with a must-win mentality at 10 or 12 and 10, but they have won a couple of games in a row, and Baylor beat the hell out of them, if you remember, just a couple of weeks ago, so they're not real thrilled with that as well. Now, and Hilda Brown, is LJ playing tonight? Hilda, I mean, when Sohan was back, then all of a sudden Flagler's out. And then he's back, and then, of course, LJ has been out. Right about the time when LJ was out, without question, their main go-to guy when it comes to scoring. And, then you had the Akinjo butt bruise. Now, I want to say hello to one of our listeners from the 419, which he's from, actually, Findlay, Ohio. and that's in the Toledo area, just north of Cincinnati, is driving from Florida back to Ohio. His father has been ill, and he was in Florida. He and his wife were in Florida, had 2 cars down there, and he got some news that he was in the ER, his father, and he's driving on his way back to Florida. He texts a lot. He and I text at times in the evening, and we are thinking about you, and please be careful and drive safely back to Ohio. It's about a 15-hour drive.
I had my best friend's dad got a job in Findlay for a little while and had to make that drive when he would come down and see, because we were in college when it happened. So, yeah, he had to do it.
It's a 2-hour trip, a 2-day trip if you leave from anywhere like here into Tampa. It's like 1,100 miles or so, 12, maybe more, maybe even, I think it's like maybe even 1,600 or so, maybe not that far. All right, so we have that tonight. And, salt to the earth. I would love to see Kansas State take care of Baylor. You sure would if you're a Texas Tech fan. You want that. You needed Kansas to lose, even if you don't like Texas. And a lot of Texas Tech fans were kind of biting their tongue on that, as were a lot of people. But that's that. Now, tonight, the Big 12. You have Oklahoma State last night, lost at TCU. West Virginia, Huggy, got a win against Iowa State. Baylor plays at Kansas State, and Texas Tech is in Norman against Oklahoma, 2 games in the Big 12. The Baylor women are hosting Kansas State, in fact, tonight. That's in basketball. Last night, Auburn beaten by Arkansas. I still think Auburn is the best team in the country. I know there's probably maybe you could throw it up in the air, 5 to 8 teams. Baylor was a part of that. Not right now. Not until they kind of get themselves back on track. But Auburn still played really well. Arkansas just had one of those nights, right? Just kind of like Texas did on Monday. Arkansas needed a quality win. They're pretty good, 7-3 or 8-3 in the conference, but they needed that. And so that was a very impressive, and they stormed the court. We're in that mindset now. We're storming the court, and I don't mind it as long as security's enough to where no one gets hit in the head, and then there's a fight, and then it becomes the story instead of the game.
Well, Remy Martin apparently got a little dinged by some students on Monday. So Kansas fans are none too happy about it. But I'll say this. Part of the thing is I think your goal should be to be a school that never has to storm anything.
Now, I understand that. And we brought this up with Brian Davis. And, Craig, you know how popular and how historic the Texas baseball team is. They don't do the dog pile unless they win the World Series in Omaha, and they have the history to do that. Their football team hasn't been good since 2009, but I don't think you would ever see them storm the field. If they beat Alabama in the second game next year, with all of what they've been through, a decade plus of mediocrity, I still don't think you'll see them storm the field. I think people would absolutely hyperventilate and maybe pass out if they did that at Texas. What do you think?
I mean, I guess. I don't know. Storming the court and storming the field's not that big of a deal to me. People want to play police over that thing. It's stupid to see Ohio State rush the field after they beat, Indiana. That's dumb. But, I mean, the people that get, cop over it, I don't care that much. I mean, I'm sorry. I would love to care more about something but to me, it's just very trivial and not that big of a deal. I don't see too many teams that abuse it. And if there's a school that does it one-off, randomly, because of just the buildup. And, a lot of times the people that are complaining about storming the court or rushing the field, they're not even there. They're sitting on their couch, and they have no idea of what's going on inside the stadium or the feeling or the energy. And they just sit there and they point at their TV, and they're like, how stupid. But were you there? Did you sense, why maybe that happened the way that it did?
Because that does build up.
Yes, it does. It does. You don't plan that out before you do it. It's one of those things where you might be in a game you didn't think you were going to win, and you end up winning it, and it's oh my gosh, everybody goes crazy, but you didn't go to the game that day thinking you were going to storm the field or storm the court. So, I do think there's instances where it's probably happened for some schools that are probably a bit too big to celebrate a win that's not that big, but maybe it's one that they just desperately needed. I don't know. So I think it just kind of comes down to the situation. I don't try to play traffic cop over that deal, and I'm certainly not. I haven't thought 1 second about the storming of the court. As far as that particular example goes, it's fine with me. I mean, it's whatever.
The reason I bring it up, I think I saw some that were we don't do that. Oh my God. It's not, if baseball, I can get it. And even football, I can get it despite, again, 10 or 12 years of mediocrity. And they have had a Final Four with Texas and TJ Ford or whatever. But hey, come on. There's nothing wrong. One of the problems at Texas and one of the problems at times at the Farrell Center, even though at times the students will show up, especially for the men's game, and had their largest showing against, I guess, Texas on Friday, or maybe it was Oklahoma, whatever it was last week, is that you want them to come to the game and be a part and get engaged, and then you want to like police them where they want to freaking enjoy a moment. Let them enjoy a moment. Now, Baylor's the defending national champions. If first of all, they got to get themselves together, but if they were to beat Kansas this year, you expect that. Now, right now you don't, because I don't know who they are. You would expect that. 5 years ago, maybe you do, right? But you are now in a different era because you just recently won the national title.
Yeah. So like I said, like I'm fine with people doing it whenever they do it, but the ultimate in sports fan awesomeness is if that you just go like, all right, good deal.
That's what. Yeah.
Let's go.
Let me tell you something. There's a lot of programs now with great history, but there are certain wins now because they don't have that. That history is history. That means it's in the past, and a lot of times it's 10, 12, 15, or 25 years ago. I can even see some of them that would probably open up the door if they get a big win, because sometimes you wonder if any of them will ever get a big win again. All right, so we've done that.
So since Bud Walton Arena, they had never hosted a number one visiting team.
There you go.
So, maybe if you just look at it for 2 seconds, you realize, oh, hey, that was actually kind of a big deal. We spent way too much time on storming the court, I think, because I do think that people try to pick that apart, and it's really what we're talking about, maybe like 2 people online that are annoyed
I actually wasn't even bringing them up, but I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
I did, and I was bringing it up because I saw some chatter after Monday's game against Kansas.
Hadn't beaten a number one team since 1984. When they beat Michael Jordan in North Carolina. So it's kind of a long time ago. So, Arkansas in particular, I don't care about that. Hey, celebrate. You beat Auburn. Auburn was looking unbeatable there for a second, they were just running through people and picking up win after win and enjoying their reign on top. And to topple them when it didn't look like they were going to suffer too many losses the rest of this way, and hadn't beat a team number one since '84 and Michael Jordan. Go for it. And there are other instances where I do think it's a little silly. You can do it too much, but in the Arkansas example in particular, I think it's all good.
Most of the people who complain about someone storming the court or the field are the ones who probably just lost.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
Saw this from John Rothstein, college basketball writer. I want to ask you, this is more than just the story of the Horizon League has banned the University of Illinois Chicago from all winter and sports championships, including the upcoming conference tournament in men's and women's basketball. They recently announced they were leaving to join the Missouri Valley. Not like right now, but when that time comes, which could be even after this upcoming season. Like Cincinnati and Brigham Young's independent, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, and others. There's been like dozens of teams that are moving back and forth. Texas and Oklahoma decided they were going to leave for the SEC. They feel like it will be 2025. It might be before then. Did they get banned from winning championships? No. Is this petty on the conference's part, or should teams now just not tell the truth and then be secretive and say, okay, we're done?
Is it petty? It's the definition of petty.
Of course
if it was a band,
yes.
It would be Tom Petty. It is so petty. It is ridiculously petty. It is childish. It is ridiculous. And okay, they're banning the students from doing this,
yes.
Right? Okay, which one of those players forged the way to the Missouri Valley Conference was the one who went and said, look, I'm not going to play another minute of basketball until we're in the gosh darn Missouri Valley. Not one of them. None of them. They had no decision in that. So now you're punishing student athletes for something that administrators did that has nothing to do with the student athletes. Ask any... when we have, like when you ask people like, hey, what do you think about, Oklahoma, leaving the conference, or Texas leaving the conference? Does it put any more, edge on that game? And the players are like, yeah, no, they're still in the conference now. It doesn't matter to us.
It's a fan thing most of the time.
It's a fan thing.
Yeah. And sometimes media.
And this is a fan type decision that the conference made. That's ridiculous. Right. I think it's shameful.
The Flames are 8-13, Craig. They are 4-8 in the conference. The only way they make the NCAA tournament was to have one of those Cinderella runs by winning the Horizon League Conference Tournament, and that ended when they made this decision. The Horizon League did. Well, so their March Madness is done.
Well, for one, that's on them too. Their record is not that great, so that's ultimately on them not receiving an invitation. If you needed a a hopeful tournament dream run. Like, yeah, we've seen two teams do that before, but it doesn't sound very likely in their case. So let's not act like they're really missing out on too much ultimately. But let's also acknowledge the Horizon said that they didn't give their exit officially in time, and that's why they're punishing them. They're not just saying like, oh, you're leaving? Well, guess what? They didn't do it that way. They're being petty to the level of, well, if you look at the rule book, you didn't give us this amount of time to process the information and let known that you're going to be leaving. And so that's why they're saying that they're punishing them in this regard. Now, congratulations to all the adults. This is like the third time that sports have done this. You remember James Madison in football. There was another basketball league. Who was it? There's another team that got barred from postseason play here recently in a similar situation. It was James Madison in the Sun Belt. Stony Brook in the Colonial as well is being barred from postseason play because they're moving. But I just want to say congratulations once again to all the adults in college athletics that are punishing the student athletes. I think that's brilliant. Let's take it out on the student athletes. Let's not be mad at the school for moving a decision that was not made by the student athletes. Let's punish their basketball players and not allow them to play in games that they may never get to play in again. I think that's what's really cool about these decisions.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I don't see the benefit in. And again, so the only thing you had, that's what makes it even more petty to me is, so the only hope that they had to get in the tournament, you've now taken that away. So the only shot, the only thing they had to play for at all was the fact that they get in the conference tournament, they get hot, and they go on a run and they can make it. Now they're just playing out for the next 3 weeks. Yep. And
then I got to tell you another thing. I don't know, and there's some conferences where you don't all get in. You know, there's part of that in the Big 12 at times. I don't know about whether that means they were out, but they were not dead last. They're in that 2/3 of the way down. So that.
Why don't you just fine them? Why punish the players? The players didn't do anything. The players just signed up to go to a school and play basketball. They have nothing to do with legislation or with any big decisions that are made. We know that. They're just there. They are on scholarship, and they play, and they go to practice, and they go to class, and that's what they do, and they have no control or no power. And now the adults are freaking out because the players do have more control and power. But in this case, it's not at Alabama or at Baylor or at USC or something, so it's not going to get the same amount of attention. But yeah, ultimately it's the players that get punished for this, and they had absolutely nothing to do. And that's why the NCAA thing, when they were taking so long to punish Baylor, it's like we weren't against them punishing Baylor if there was stuff under NCAA legislation that their rules were broken. Hey, if you broke rules, you get punished for it. But the problem that a lot of people that were following the story had was the simple fact that it was like 3, 4, 5 whole recruiting classes had come through, and there were guys who were arriving and graduating after the whole thing had happened and before a decision had been made. And so it's like that dude had nothing to do with anything.
In fact,
it wasn't even here when it happened, was gone before he even made a decision, and yet he didn't get to go to XYZ because of that decision. So I do think the NCAA needed to find a way to try and correct that. But in this case, you fine them or something, but you don't punish the student athletes that had nothing to do with it. But they say that they didn't get their intentions relayed on time of what they were going to do as far as conference movement, and that's what they're citing as far as why they're punishing them. So
they punish the school or the administration or the department, but not the players. And one of the things about those who came, whether it's Baylor or elsewhere in this dark clouds, hell, if anything, you should reward them for coming because they came despite that. Here's from Tony on the text line. Ultimate petty rule. Old Pacific Coast Conference used to have a rule that banned member teams from playing any team that left.
Well, did we not talk about, are you going to play Oklahoma and Texas if the opportunity comes up? I don't think the Big 12 is going to enact a ban on that, and I think if they did, I'd rail them for that. I don't think you leave your hands out and you leave your front door open for OU and Texas anytime they come calling, but I don't think you just pretend like you don't live there anymore either. That is petty. I hate that petty stuff, especially when it harms the people that don't have anything to even do with it. That's what bothers me the most is if you're some basketball player on one of these teams and you're looking at, the possibilities the rest of your career and, I only got a handful of games left, but man, we get into that conference tournament, maybe we can extend it, and now you don't even have that, so now you're just counting counting down and the season's done. And that's the case for some teams. They know their basketball season's going to be done, once conference tournament wraps. But if you had any slight hope, then that just gets crushed by a bunch of adults.
The reason conference tournaments are so popular, the reason March Madness is so popular is not because Duke or Kentucky or Baylor or North Carolina or whoever wins. It's because of the crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Even if there's not a lot of it, there seems to be.
And I just know this, banning somebody from playing or kind of casting a black cloud over them if they play someone who's left. That's all well and good in football when you would only play them once anyway or twice, and it's hard to schedule. But I just harken back to Steve Smith, who was the baseball coach here after A&M left the conference, and he scheduled them not that year but the year after, and when people kind of said, well, what are you doing playing A&M? He's like, look, that's all well and good for everybody else, but I've got to have midweek games. I've got to have a couple of games that we can play home and away midweek or a weekend series that's close, because baseball doesn't have the budget that football does. They can't just jump on a plane and go somewhere, 10 times a year. That's not how it is. You have to play all these games. You've got, 40 games to play or whatever it is in baseball that they do, and you got to have some midweek games. It's an hour and a half away. Sorry. He didn't have time to be, petty and jump on some sort of thing of oh, no, we're not going to play them anything ever again unless it just happens that way in a bowl game. You just can't do that.
Mike Bean was saying Big 12 shunned Missouri and A&M for years. I'll tell you from the perspective that I have is that it was really a head coach of a specific team, and it could be all of them, that said, no, we're not going to play them. There were some at Baylor. We're not going to play them. But men's basketball, I don't think they stopped playing A&M. Texas has played A&M. Texas. Now in football, that's okay, I see that. But I don't know about shunned, but at the same time.
Well, Kansas and Missouri don't play in anything anymore, which is unfortunate, especially basketball.
And how much interest was there on A&M to play Big 12 teams, as well?
Yeah,
looking at the other side, I don't think that they were craving, we got to get that Baylor game in there. Mm-hmm. They sure as hell weren't trying to play Texas. Can't wait for that article again in November, the annual article that we'll get around Thanksgiving time about how they haven't played in forever, and revisit that and talk about the same things that we've been talking about for however long, how many years it's been. But thankfully that will now be donezo here in the next few years when they are absolutely going to play each other on a regular basis again, and that'll be great. But going back to the Horizon League, or in any other leagues that are pulling this move of you didn't give us a year's worth of a heads up or whatever the bylaws say, what about the spring sports that haven't even started yet? They already know, baseball, I don't know if baseball has started in the Horizon League. I mean, I just don't know. But if it hasn't, or even if it has and it just got underway, you're already... you're done, guys. Sorry. You're just playing to have fun, basically. You're not going to any postseason because, the people who are 5 steps above you that you probably never even met before, they decided they want to move conferences and they didn't give us a year's heads up. So, sorry, guys, you don't get to play in the postseason. I think that's shady and petty. And, I think we've made that point now.
And I'm not sure about whether – I know they said winter sports. Is that – you're on there? Okay. No. Now, one other note. And we'll have a transfer portal note as well today that they are looking at changing that up. Not the rules of the transfer portal, but how and who can see it. The NFL scouting combine, those invited listed today, Baylor with Kalen Barnes, Terrell Bernard, Treston Ebner, Jalen Petrie, Abram Smith, who was on with us yesterday, Monday, Tyquan Thornton, and J.T. Woods. Now, Xavier Newman-Johnson, who had a nice week in Vegas, was not invited. At least not yet. There are some that sometimes there are additions. Baylor had more than anybody else in the Big 12. Oklahoma had more, 11. Baylor had 7. Iowa State had 6. Those were the most among those in the Big 12.
Well, I think for Xavier Newman-Johnson, I would think that maybe he just got caught up in a numbers game. Maybe that position might have more guys. I don't know. It's kind of surprised me that he wasn't there.
Yeah, you can't have everybody. You can't have 500 players,
yeah.
But and again, someone could go to bat for him. You can have somebody that changes that up. Alabama was tied with Oklahoma with 11, and Georgia, the national champions, as you can imagine, led the way with 14. A&M and LSU each have 9 being invited to the Senior Bowl.
I don't think 7 is anything to sneeze at. I think that's a really good number for Baylor. I thought they'd probably land there. I didn't think the entire group of All-Star Game guys, which was 8, would all get invites. And I think I talked about it on the podcast with Grayson, and I don't remember. There was a couple of guys that we were iffy on, and I can't remember exactly who it was that we both thought were kind of borderline. And Xavier Newman-Johnson might have been one of those. I can't recall. But, yeah, that's unfortunate. I hate that for him. I mean, he had to have felt good coming off of bowl practices that, he was turning some heads and making some strides. There was a lot of, good positive talk about him being one of the more under-the-radar type of guys who had made an impression, and then to turn around and kind of get a slap in the face when you don't get that combine invite, and every single other guy who got all-star invites on your team all got combine invites. You were the only one.
Yeah.
That sucks. That sucks, and it's probably a bit of a hard pill to swallow for him, but hopefully he just uses it as motivation and goes and has good workouts and has a really good pro day. That's all he can really do at this point is have great workouts and a great pro day because he won't get that combine opportunity. But I think for the other 7, it's a great thing to be a part of. It's a dream, I'm sure, for a lot of those guys to take part in the NFL Combine and be on NFL Network and be running 40s with, all the other top players and in front of all the scouts. That's one of those stops along the way that you dream about. So for those 7, that's a great number, biggest number we've seen in a really long time. I don't know the last time they've had 7. I haven't done the research just yet, but it's been a while, I would think, since they've had that many. And this is a good group. I would expect a handful of those guys to be drafted.
Jim Nagy will join us at 4. He runs the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, where Baylor had 4 there. They, of course, had those in Vegas as well. We'll get his feedback on who shined to him from not just Baylor, but also throughout the week. And when we come back, Pat Nunley, the voice, color analyst of Baylor men's basketball, former Baylor guard, on many things as they play Kansas State tonight. They go from one of the hardest places to play, Allen Fieldhouse, to another place that's really rabid, and I mean hard to play, in Bramlage. But then next week they go to Tech in Lubbock, and we know that one has become an absolute crazy, crazy atmosphere in a good way if you're a Texas Tech basketball player and or fan. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com, the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, and if you want to get involved in betting on the Super Bowl, $50 will get you 125% bonus on promo code SICKM125. You use cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto if you use promo code SICKM200. That's at BetUS.com. Tons of action, all whether it's prop bets or daily lines, whatever it is, whatever you want to do in the Super Bowl, BetUS.com has it. They have action on almost every sport around the world, and the Super Bowl is, of course, the big, gigantic day in sports betting. BetUS.com. Use our promo code SICKM125 and SICKM200.
Save big during the President's Day sales event at Allen Samuels. The new 2021 Chrysler 300 has total values of $3,000 or 0% for 72 months and $2,000 in bonus cash. First responders get an extra $500. Shop their huge new car and truck inventory for power, performance, style, and reliability today from Allen Samuels in Waco at the President's Day sales event going on now.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
Joined by Pat Nunley, former Baylor guard, Baylor radio color analyst for men's basketball. Baylor and Kansas State tonight in Manhattan. Baylor beat the heck out of them just a couple of weeks ago, but Kansas State is one of those that makes you scratch and claw, and they appear to be playing dangerously enough. How critical do they have to start well tonight?
I think it's critical, David. They've won 2 in a row. And Baylor is going to go from Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday to Bramlage Coliseum tonight. And those are 2 very difficult places to play. So Kansas State's rolling a little bit. They're 4-6. You know, they really fought through COVID protocols and injuries. And they stand at 12-10, but they've won 2 in a row. They've got a little bit of a swagger. They've got some confidence. And this is a tough place to play. I don't think people really appreciate how difficult Bramlage Coliseum is.
Yeah, and you hear that, and unless you're there, it's kind of like what I had an experience one time to go on a trip to go to Hilton Coliseum, and you can't, unless you're there, you no matter what it looks like on television. Now, the way Baylor has had this, they're 4-4 since they had the 15-0 start. There's a lot of reasons behind that, and some of it's just that they're getting beat. Do they lack somebody to that? Like, do they lack the joker like a Mark Vital, not just with who he is as a player, but who he is maybe as the guy?
Yes, they do. And I think that's a really good point, David. Last year, they had 4 alphas. I mean, those 4 guys, you mentioned Vital, and Vital was probably the alpha of the alphas. But they had 4 guys who really led one another. They communicated. They were mentally tough. And I think this year they haven't had that guy yet. I think Chachua is close to playing that role, but that's a pretty significant difference last year to this year. And I know we keep going back and comparing everything to one of the best college basketball teams to play in the last 20 years, but that's just the way it is. They lack that. I think they do. It's kind of a rudder in the water. And you know, at certain times over the course of the season, a guy or 2 will step up and play that role. But the play really, from a leadership perspective, is performance. It's not inspiration. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even when guys aren't playing well. Let me put it this way: when guys aren't playing well, you really got to lead. You got to inspire. You got to motivate. You got to gather together. You got to communicate. And we've missed that. When Akinjo has led, for example, he's scoring big and he's having a great night. But it's a different kind of leadership. And I think, to your point, David, this team lacks that a little bit.
Can they, if things do get healthy, I say things, if people get healthy, can they get back to who they were at 15-0?
I think so. Because when they are healthy and when they are really good, they're great. They were 15-0. They're very balanced. They can switch every screen. They've got offensive firepower. And I keep going back to Villanova, but that was historic defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really sniffed that yet, but we know we can do it. Just haven't been able to do it. And I think if you're going to point at one thing, it is the injury situation, because not only do you take key players out of the lineup, you have a different composition of the team. Having Cryer does hurt in terms of scoring ability, but now you've got a different vibe. I think Akinjo and Cryer had really developed a nice 1-2 punch in the sense that Akinjo knows where Cryer's going to be. Cryer knows where to go, and they play really well off one another. And if you take that out of the mix, it's tough. It really is, because offense is about chemistry. Defense is about principles and rules, and we've lacked that chemistry because of the injuries.
In football, you hear about there's a number one receiver, like there's the guy, and then sometimes the number two receiver gets big numbers, whatever. I'll use the example. Michael Irvin was the dog for the Cowboys in receiving, and of course they had other weapons, Emmett, Croy, and Novacek, but Alvin Harper benefited because of all of it. And then he went to Tampa and never really produced much, and he was overpaid. Not that quite comparison, but is Adam Flagler better when he doesn't have to lead?
I think so. And he is a great kid, and I think he's got that in him. But last year, he was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you look at his numbers from a year ago, it was off the charts. But his role was to defer a little bit and to come in and play a fairly narrowly defined role. And this year he's not deferring. You can't defer. He's got to lead. And he's done that I think pretty well. He had 16 against Kansas, but they all came in the second half, and the game was over by the second media timeout, so they really didn't matter. But yeah, I think it's a different role for him. It's a different role for Meyer. And those guys, I think, have at times filled those roles pretty well. But when it's really mattered, we just haven't been able to get that.
You have been around that program from the day that Scott Drew walked in the door. Paul and I were there in Kansas City the day that Perry Jones III was ruled ineligible before they played Oklahoma. And I remember the look on Scott's face. They had just found that out. I mean, he, as you could imagine, was angry. You rarely see that. There's a few glimpses behind the scenes in these little documentaries and whatever. But was that as mad as you've ever seen him in that game against Kansas when he got the technical foul?
He was pretty mad. And I think, David, the circumstances warranted a technical foul right there, because that team needed a slap in the face, and it wasn't happening on the floor. He just needed to do something to throw cold water in their face and wake them up a little bit. And that doesn't happen very often. I mean, Scott, I think, was very selective about the technical. If that's a close game, he's not getting the technical.
Sure.
He's going to complain. But in that situation, he had to do something. And so he was plenty mad. But he's been mad before, where he was able to subdue that in terms of where the game was, how his team was doing. So I think that was largely circumstantial, but he was plenty mad, no question. Well, reason to be.
Yeah, and almost if you look at the situation, to come on the court like that, now the official's the one that put his arm out, but any kind of thing like that, you could have even seen that lead to an ejection. And we know that's almost respect to him, because they're like, whoa, that's Scott Drew doing that, which you have to wonder if the official has to go, man, he doesn't do that, so it has to be something beyond. Do you feel like the burden of being the national champions has been a problem at all at any time during the year, and especially when things start to go wrong?
Maybe a little bit. David, I heard Coach Tang talk about the issue of winner's fatigue. I thought that was a really interesting comment, where winning starts to become a little easier just because you've done it, you get it, you expect to win every game. And with their ability and their talent, they can do that. Now, they've had to scratch and claw. That 15-0 record, they earned that. Mm-hmm. But I think there may have been a little bit of that. And the 2 losses in a row were, I do believe, a wake-up call. And they responded from that pretty well until, again, they have been challenged by injuries and have just been disjointed. I mean, I don't know, David, if James Akinjo has gone 0 for 11 in his life.
Right. I mean, from back when he could barely dribble.
It just doesn't happen. And we had 3 guards in the first half against Kansas that did not score a point. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win. And there was more to it than that. And then that was the alarming thing, is I don't think they competed. I really don't.
Right.
You can just see it, kind of feel it. And back to your point earlier, David, Coach Drew said about his team last year, that was a player-led team. And that's not an understatement. And this year, I think he's looking for that a little bit. When, back to the technical, when he saw a lack of that, that's when he had to step in and do something, because they were not being led by the players. He had to jump in.
One more thing, Pat Nunley with us, color analyst, Baylor Radio. Does the downtime or not enough players, that's not downtime's not the right phrase, but not enough players to truly in practice get sharper and sharpen that edge and compete, does that hurt more on offense or defense?
That's a good question. I think both, really. You got to practice. I mean, in fact, again, here we go last year again, but that being in the bubble in Indianapolis for a month. They went straight from the Big 12 tournament to Indianapolis, being in the bubble and practicing every day. They didn't lose any practice time to travel time. That had a lot to do with them getting back and getting on a roll and winning a national championship. You have to practice. I think it's both. I think it's chemistry. It is defensive principles, how you close out, you push everything to the sideline. But again, I don't think, and I'm going back to Kansas, but I don't think Kansas was that. I don't think it was fundamentals. I don't think it was principles. I think it was really understanding the game plan, executing the game plan. You can't give Kansas 8 transition points before the first media timeout. You do that, you're in for a long day, and that's exactly what happened. So it's practice for sure, and I think that is critical. But it's also executing a game plan, and it just didn't stick. Going from the strategy session to the game, there was a disconnection there somewhere.
Well, tough game tonight on the road. You mentioned Bramlage, then Texas in town Saturday. They get a full week to recover their legs after winning against Kansas, and then it's at Tech. So I've said this before, if you blink or burp, you could be on a 4 to 5 game losing streak if you're not careful.
That's true. And Kansas loses at Texas. They're 8-2. You and I have said a couple times, David, the winner of this league, I think, could lose 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So I think Kansas has got a couple of more losses. But you got nationally, you got Kansas 8, Tech 9, Baylor 10, Texas 20, and Texas is surging. We said last time you and I talked that Texas needed a signature win.
Yep.
They beat Tennessee. They got one, and now they're starting to roll a little bit too. They're 18-6. They've got a couple of wins to feel really good about. They've won 2 in a row, and we're not even there yet. I mean, we got to handle Kansas State tonight. Where, by the way, at Kansas State, the students get the best seats in the house. They are right there courtside. And you just don't see that many other places, if any, in the league. They got the pick of the litter, and, man, they are rabid. And this is going to be a tough one. So you're right. It's a gauntlet. We knew it was a gauntlet, but the Bears need to win a few. I think the goal is still – they're 7-3, so they're one game out of first place. But they're sitting there with Tech. Texas is right behind them. The goal is still to win a Big 12 championship, and they've got work to do to get there.
No question. Pat Nunley, thank you, Pat Nunley, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
The pavilion at the Carleen Bright Arboretum offers perfect backdrop for your upcoming events. Bring the outdoors inside because of the beautiful, large floor-to-ceiling windows and a spacious 10,000-square-foot main hall. The pavilion allows outside caterers for whatever event it might be, complimentary AV, audio, visual, and all of what you need with that as well. And holds over 360 guests for a seated event. Competitive rates, and the pavilion at Carleen Bright Arboretum is ideal for anything from galas, fundraisers, banquets, conventions, corporate meetings, and weddings as well. So book your next corporate event or special event at the Carleen Bright Arboretum inside the city of Woodway. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Steakhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Of course, Super Bowl 56 in L.A. starting to close in on the weekend. Long way to go. We've all been there during Radio Rows and many, many times, and it seems like you forget there's a game. But there's always news, and Roger Goodell has a State of the NFL press conference, and he gets grilled about many things. And, Paul, you think that there's also some things simmering about what they've decided, some decisions before, I guess.
Well, Mike Florio has a new book coming out, and all this new stuff is coming out about Deflategate, and that well, I think we always kind of knew it was way overblown, but now it looks even worse in that some of the scientific evidence kind of exonerates the Patriots in many regards. And Roger Goodell asked about days, pretend like he hadn't heard about it, but I'm sure he has. Of all the things Roger Goodell has done for the league, good and bad, I think Deflategate is the one that will maybe follow him around forever. And that, the greatest quarterback of all time you suspended because of supposedly underinflated footballs when it was cold outside and it could have been underinflated anyway, and you had very little evidence, and all this stuff dragged on and on and on and on. And just, I don't know. It's a tough gig being the commissioner of anything because you have to be responsible for so much, but that was one of his black eyes for sure, and not even close to the worst one. But that's going on right now, and he's getting grilled about diversity questions, which he'll say a bunch of things, but he's not going to change anything.
The problem I had during that time was it seemed like every single year during the offseason there was some sort of an investigation, almost as if the NFL, and I know how important that shield is, we've discussed that, their brand. But if it wasn't that, and that seemed to last forever, it was then what happened with New Orleans. And there were a lot of times, and maybe it's me not being more aware, but I didn't understand some of it. I always thought it was an overkill when there's a lot more that they need to be working on. And I just never quite understood all of how much time, money, effort was in to both Deflategate and even what happened to the Saints. I mean, the Saints were destroyed with what happened to them, So that's just me. It's just me.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, he did address diversity and mentioned that they have to do a better job there. I mean, he took those questions and answered those. And on the Deflategate, I mean, I'm trying to read the summary of what he said, but it's like a story that just does not pique my interest. And so I'm reading it, and it's just like a bunch of babble to me because it's like quoting things about like ball spots and PSIs. And so I need to like sit down and actually read an article on what exactly he's talking about because I just don't get it trying to skim what exactly he said today. But I see where some have definitely taken the stance that, him and Troy Vincent are basically, backtracking or kind of talking out of two sides of their mouth. But yeah, I mean, there's still the Deflategate talk all these years later. And that was drummed up today along with the minority hiring questions. And, I'm sure he'll dodge and deflect. And then, people complain about it for an entire year. And then next year he'll get up there and he'll talk about like, yeah, well, this could be better. And then people will complain for a year. I mean, same cycle. I don't see anything changing too much. I don't know what comes out of this new book and if Deflategate gets resurrected or whatever comes from that. And I don't know how he plans on fixing the minority hires because you can't force teams to hire somebody based on their skin color. So I don't know how you I know that they're making attempts like the HBCU participation in like the All-Star games and doing more of that and having HBCU coaches on those staffs and making that part of their plan to further get these guys integrated into the league potentially by, hey, they turn ahead being a wide receivers coach at the Senior Bowl, and all of a sudden the Bucs go, you know what, that guy's interesting. That's what they're trying to do, and maybe that's all you can do, but it's at least an effort. I will give them credit. They're trying to make some effort, and I don't know how else you do it that isn't just like, hey, Chargers, you have to hire this, you can't do that. So I think they're actually being sort of calculated and smart about it. It just may take longer than a lot of people would like, and it's not going to turn into, a year from now, suddenly 16 of the 32 coaches are minority coaches. It's going to take a while to build up that number. But yeah, I think Mike Tomlin stuck around for forever, and I guess the only other thing would be, if Lovie Smith could somehow stick in Houston for several years and you just get guys who can stick around long enough to where you build up a good group. But, yeah, as we know, it's guys are in and out so quickly now. At least they're trying to make some effort. But, yeah, I don't know about the Deflategate stuff. I got to read more into all what that means.
I wonder if the answer to minority or diversity is not so much how many head coaches are hired, but how many people who are able to own an NFL franchise are interested in doing that.
Well, there's one right now.
Yes.
Byron Allen and the Broncos.
Yes, and there you go. Yeah. And there's one, and then there maybe will be 3 or 4, and that doesn't mean
that will be the
black owners will hire black head coaches, but that sure does increase, you would think, the percentage that they do.
Well, and it would be
and
nice.
General managers and more.
Yeah. And I'm sure that when the NFL is ultimately forced to make Daniel Snyder go away, that maybe that one.
Can you imagine what he must have on people? It must be like the flight log for what's his face, Epstein or something. It must be like that level of secrecy, because I just don't know how the NFL in any way views Daniel Snyder as anything but a pimple on their butt. Honestly, what has he done that has contributed positively?
Is his field somewhere where people want to go? No. Is the brand better than it was when he took over? No, it's far worse than it ever was, even with a name change.
Paul, out of everything you mentioned, the bottom line is he hurts the shield.
Yeah.
And we've discussed that.
Yeah.
But he has a bucket load of money.
Yeah, he does.
But so does a lot of a lot of people.
No, there's only a few that could own NFL teams.
But
or even want to.
There's a couple people that they could.
Yeah. I know, but that doesn't mean that just works that way. There's probably 100,000 people that could probably own an NFL team. I doubt it, maybe 1,000. But that doesn't mean you want to or you have the time and effort to want to get into it. Now, when we come back, Jim Nagy, he runs the Reese's Senior Bowl. Baylor had a flavor there along with many others. I saw a note that a young man from Wyoming got a lot of attention for his performance in Mobile, who's rising up the charts as well. And Jim Nagy next. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr, and they want you to stop by the dealership or give them a phone call to get your name on that inbound vehicle list as they are receiving deliveries of new cars and trucks each week. Now's the time to contact Richard Carr and get yourself in a new GMC, Buick, or Cadillac. You can check out 11 different SUV models over at Richard Carr from GMC, Buick, and Cadillac. Not only do they have 11 different SUV models, they also have dozens of trim options, as Richard Carr is a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, whether it's a fun and nimble Buick Encore or sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade. Richard Carr is the SUV you need, starting at $24,000. Call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. And if you're not looking to buy new, well, Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks that have all gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and they have over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you in a car today. 100% credit approval is always their goal, so go online or come by for a test drive today. Trust the good local people you can count on for over 20 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Baylor wins the tip. And Meyer launches and buries one to start it. And the Bears on top.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. Scott Drew in an hour. Baylor men's basketball at Kansas State tonight. Among others, we're now joined by the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. He was there in Mobile. Baylor had a nice contingent and flavor there as well, but not just Baylor, many others. Jim, as always, thank you so much. And also, what you do to run that event is incredible. Baylor had a contingent, obviously Jalen Petrie, Abram Smith, among some others. And I've seen some chatter about what Petrie and Abram have done. Your thoughts about those two, at least off the top, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, appreciate you having me back on. Yeah, we had a nice Baylor crew down here this year. Abram, I think, is one of the coolest stories in this year's draft with the position switch kind of back and forth from running back to linebacker and finally settling in and having that breakout year this year. It's hard sometimes it's hard to fully evaluate the running backs during the week just because we don't really tackle to the ground during practice. So to see what Abram did during the game, bouncing off and running through a lot of contact, which he did there at Baylor, looked like the same guy, and it was the best against the best competition in this year's draft class. So that was good. He did well in the blitz pickup stuff, which is always key for the week. You know, these guys showing off what they can do in the pass game. He caught it well, and then Jalen Petrie. I've made no secret about it. He's one of my favorite guys in the draft. If I were a GM, I'd want that guy on my football team. I just love the energy he plays with. He's kind of a live wire. Got in the game the other day and just balled out. You know, was all over the place. Very active like he always is. Excuse me, putting his face on people. So, both those guys showed really well during the week.
For Jalen, is it, I mean, a lot of times because you play a couple of different weird positions and different defenses in college, that's kind of a detriment to you. But with the way that defenses are shifting, is he maybe, because of that, almost a perfect guy to have on any defense because he can do a lot of things?
Yeah, I mean, a smart coordinator is going to find a home for him. I mean, he's an instinctive player. I think, he is a little bit of a tweener. But the NFL has done a much better job over probably the last 4, 5, 6 years of using those guys. Now, you know, tweener used to kind of carry a negative connotation. It doesn't anymore. You just got to find a place for them. So I think, you know, you got to look at guys like Budda Baker and, guys in that vein, you know, really give you kind of a blueprint on how to use Jalen. So, again, he's an active guy. He's got really good eyes. He's instinctive. He's urgent. He's just a really good football player. So, you know, any defense should be able to find a home for him.
Jim, there were a couple other Baylor Bears there before we move on to some other schools. JT Woods, who I know was a late addition to the game, obviously a rangy, long safety. And then Terrell Bernard, which is unfortunate. I know he got banged up during the week or was hurt and couldn't participate in the game. How is that kind of viewed when guys, like there's an injury during the week like that? Is that any sort of a knock on Terrell Bernard? How is that sort of viewed? And your thoughts as well on JT Woods? Obviously, guys brought him in to round out those rosters.
Starting with Terrell, that was a pre-existing injury. So he was working on his 40 starts with his trainers the week leading up to Senior Bowl, which is beyond me. Why you would be doing that when you're getting ready to go play football in 3 or 4 days? But so he tweaked a hamstring, leading into our week, and then we had a stretch and run period on Monday just to get the guys loose a little bit, and he felt it tighten up, so he couldn't finish through the week, which is unfortunate because our week was really set up for this guy to shine. I mean, he's what the league's looking for in terms of athletic space linebackers. You guys have all watched him. Mm-hmm. I think he would have excelled during practice all week, covering backs and tight ends, and really helped himself. So that was a bummer that he was working on 40 starts right before coming to Mobile. And JT, he's a little bit of a late ad, but I told all those guys, we brought guys up in midweek. I mean, we've had some midweek call-ups over the years that have gone in the third round. So you nailed him. He's long, he's rangy, he can really, really run. He came out with our Zebra Technology stuff. Zebra Technology is the official data partner of the National Football League. And we have those guys, their pads are chipped all week, and we're tracking all that stuff. And one of the fastest players here in Mobile, which is no surprise because he was hitting some really good GPS numbers there at Baylor as well. So, and then he had a knack this year. He got around the ball, whatever he finished with, 4 or 5 picks. He had one in the game down here. So, it did nothing but help himself.
Yeah, that's not good about the injury before the week of the Senior Bowl. Is that something, Jim, and I don't know how much you can say, I know you're disappointed, is that something that might have been agent-driven?
No, because it was a legit injury. It was he did it during training. Again, okay. Some players and some agent groups I would be skeptical of, but not Terrell Bernard, man. That is not how that kid's wired. I think you guys know that.
Yeah.
He is a football player. He wanted to be out there. Again, I really question the decision to be working on 40 starts a few days before probably the most important stage of the process for these guys. He's got all these guys leave Mobile. They got 5 weeks to work on their 40-yard dash start. So the fact that they were doing that, 3 or 4 days before coming down here was a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, and JT Woods, Jalen Petrie, but you mentioned these guys from Baylor, and they are football players. Some of them, like you mentioned, some of them are tweeners or this and that, but it does seem as if they have produced just football players. And I know that it's height and weight and times and all that. How much does that still go into consideration? They just make plays.
I mean, yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And then when you have guys that test the way that these guys are going to test, well, now you're really cooking, right? So no, they're good players. They're instinctive. They're on the ball, and I think it just speaks to the culture of Baylor right now. And guys like Petrie and Bernard and Abram were guys that, talking to the staff, really, help build and solidify that culture. I mean, you turn on Baylor, especially on defense, compared to what they were a few years ago. It's a different program, right? And that's why you were in the Sugar Bowl. So, no, those guys just play hard. When I use the word urgent to describe Jalen Petrie, I mean, that's one of the best words you can describe if you're in a draft room. If you're describing a defensive player as being urgent and a guy that wants to get to the football, again, that's one of the best things you can say about him.
Who among the group maybe changed the narrative about themselves the most, or jumped up a round or two based on the practices?
Of all the players?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Perion Winfrey from Oklahoma really helped himself. You talk about a guy that was probably playing a little bit out of position there at Oklahoma. He played nose tackle. And Perion's a big, long, angular body guy. Really not ideal for playing head up on a center. And they played him at 3 technique down here, and he had an incredible week. He was the game. He was just looked unblockable during the game. He had 2 sacks, 3 TFLs. He probably came in as a 3rd round pick, maybe a 4th round pick. Now I think he's in the conversation to be a 1st round pick. So anytime you get a guy with 35-inch plus arms, big and long, that also has explosion, those guys are really hard to find. They don't grow on trees, as we used to say when I was in New England. So if they don't grow on trees, you better go get them. Perion Winfrey certainly helped himself a ton.
You had a trio of Iowa State Cyclones there with Mike Rose and Charlie Kohler and also Andrew Mevis. Did you see anything in particular from the trio of Cyclones you had down there?
Yeah, well, Mike Rose couldn't go up. He had a neck condition that was diagnosed coming out of the bowl game. It was kind of misdiagnosed during the season there at Iowa State, so that was really unfortunate. He's getting that worked on right now. I don't know how much Mike's going to be able to do during the pre-draft process or not. Certainly, the physicality of our practices, he couldn't do that. But no, Charlie Kohler had a really good week. Andrew Mavis had a good week. Andrew Mavis was the special teams player of the week down here. And Charlie Kohler is just, I think he's a better athlete than a lot of people give him credit for. He's a big 6'6" guy that, can obviously play on the end of the line of scrimmage and do a lot of things as a blocker. But him at the top of a route, he can drop his weight, he can get open and separate. And that showed up all week during the one-on-one.
I saw some, and I don't have the name in front of me, Jim, and I'm sorry, but the young man from Wyoming, did he jump up the charts last week?
Yeah, Chad Moom is a linebacker out of Wyoming. We had his former teammate Logan Wilson in the game a couple years ago, and now all Logan Wilson's doing is, starting for a Super Bowl team in the Bengals, and had 5 interceptions this year from his linebacker spot. So, Logan went in the 3rd round a couple years ago to Cincy. I think Chad might even go higher. Super instinctive guy, athletic in space. Again, I talked about Terrell being a guy the league's looking for. Chad kind of fits that description as well. He can play on all 3 downs. Again, just great eyes. Just gets to the football, will run and hit. He and Terrell Bernard are pretty similar players, and we had them graded similarly. I think both of those guys will end up going in round 2.
There's a lot been made about this quarterback class, from the national media, but you got to see them kind of up close and personal. What did you think of the guys? And you had pretty much all of the ones that anybody wants to talk about at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, we had 6 of the top 7. The only guy we didn't get was Matty Corral from Ole Miss, who the Baylor fans saw in the Sugar Bowl for a brief time there before he got hurt. And Matt was a junior, so he wasn't eligible for us. But yeah, the group was, it was a great week because we've had guys like Josh Allen and Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert, it'd be top 10 picks. I don't know if any of these guys are slam dunk top 10 guys. But the great thing is there's no order right now. I think this week in Mobile, this past week really helped some teams, start to figure out what that stack is going to look like by the time we get to April. And they all had their moments. I was happy that most of them really showed out well in the game. Cincinnati's Desmond Ridder threw a couple touchdowns. Kenny Pickett only played one quarter, but I think he was 6 of 6 for 89 yards or something like that, threw a touchdown. Malik Willis did a lot with his legs and looked really good. So, the game is important for the quarterbacks. It really is. And they all showed well. So we'll just see. I think that, you got Ritter, Kenny Pickett, and Malik Willis are probably the top 3 right now, with like Sam Howell and Carson Strong from Nevada kind of right behind those guys. So it'll be interesting how many of these guys end up in the first round. I would think it's probably going to be 3 or 4 of them.
What did you think of the pair of SMU Mustangs, Grant Calcaterra and Danny Gray?
Yeah, and we should have had Reggie Roberson down here. And again, he's the guy that popped his pec doing bench presses like 3 days before Mobile, which didn't make a lot of sense to me either. But go
Jim,
figure.
I can only imagine the phone calls you get like in the lead up to this, man. You're just probably scared every time your phone rings.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. I'm telling you, it's like if my phone rings from an agent within 2 or 3 weeks of the game, it's never a good phone call.
Yeah, they're not asking you where the hotel is. No.
Yeah, it's never anything like that. But no, Danny Gray, unfortunately, he came in, he'd hurt his heel, doing some stuff coming down here. And then he hurt it the first day, which was really unfortunate because I think Danny's got as much upside as any receiver in this draft. I told him that before he left. He really only got about a half a practice in here before he jumped up and landed on his heel again and just pain shot through his leg. So we had to get him off the field. But really explosive, has a ton of playmaking upside. Again, his best football is way in front of him, Danny Gray. So, talent-wise, I think he's a day 2 player. It really a good full week down here would have helped him. I'm bummed that he couldn't make it through. And Grant, it's a really deep tight end class. So the interesting thing in terms of where those guys will end up going is like where that run starts. When do they start coming off the board? Because once they start going, then everyone's going to start picking them off. So it'll when will that happen? Is that going to happen in the second round? Is that going to happen in the third round? Not sure. But Grant's going to be part of that group. First of all, he's a great kid to have down here. Really, really good guy to talk to and hang out with. Really mature. He's going to hit the ground running as a pro, as a person. But just a fluid, big pass catcher. He can get open. He can get down the seam. Really adjust well to the football. So I could see him having a role next year for some team in the pass game, especially because he really does a nice job getting open and finishing on the football.
By the way, our guest has been a part of 6 Super Bowls on the staff, won 4 as a scout, along with the Packers, Patriots, and also with the Seahawks as a part of his career as well. And you can hear his passion. When you got the opportunity to start running this game, and you had scouted, I'm sure, this week many times, what did it mean to you? Because you could just feel it dripping off your body of how much this is something you love to do.
Yeah, it was a family decision. So we were here in Mobile, Alabama. It's my wife's hometown. We've been here, we're here 15 years now. So that was like 11 years we've been here. My son was getting to be, high school age playing sports. And when you're scouting, you're on the road 200 plus nights a year. So you're just not around. And I wanted to be around for all my children's stuff. I've got a daughter who's now a 7th grader. So it was really a family thing, but I've always believed in the Senior Bowl. Everyone makes a lot about the combine. I just know teams I've worked for. When we've screwed up draft picks, it's because we put way too much of stock of what goes on in shorts and T-shirts. So I'm a big believer in what happens here this week, so it's easy for me to push it. It's easy to sell something that you believe in, and I just know the teams I've worked for. You get guys that come down here and compete, aren't afraid of it, and have a really nice week, interview well. I mean, this is the longest exposure any of these teams will have to any of these players. It really, in the big scheme of things, it's a short window for these teams to try to get to know these players and the $1 million investments they're making. So for a 7-day stretch to be with these guys on and off the field, I just always felt better when we were drafting Senior Bowl players because I felt like we knew them better. It's really easy for me to it's easy for me to be passionate about it because I believe in it.
I wanted to ask you before we let you go about Jermaine Johnson and the week that he had and kind of showing everybody because his school doesn't get watched as much as they used to, and he was the reason to watch them this year.
Yeah, Jermaine he had a really good week. So he only practiced 2 days. He had an ankle injury. late in Wednesday's practice and kind of shut it down from there. But he had a really good couple days. He was a guy that needed to have a good senior year. He was kind of stuck behind some really good players at Georgia, was a career backup at Georgia. And that's look at what they did this year. Their front seven was a historically good front seven. So he went to Florida State to find a new home. He was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. And just what he showed here is what he showed at Florida State. I mean, he has speed off the edge, but he really has a lot of power. He can convert that speed to power. He plays his tail off. So he's a high motor rusher. He's going to get a lot of cleanup sacks and things of that nature. So yeah, he had a really nice couple of days. I would have loved to have seen Jermaine in the game. We had 3 defensive players on the national team have 2 sacks, and I think Jermaine would have been on the other team. But I think he could have had a good game as well. But he probably came into the week as a late 1 to mid 2 somewhere for most of the teams. And now after the week he had down here, I would doubt he gets out of the first round now.
Jim, final thing for you. You talked about the 4 Baylor guys that were in the Senior Bowl. All 4 of those guys have received combine invites. I know for Terrell, he's got to get healthy, et cetera. But you already gave us a pretty good scouting report of the 4. But what do you think that batch of Baylor Bears need to focus and work on here as they take that next step towards the combine and this journey continues? Just work on those drills, and to me, it's for the football stuff. Like if you've been told you have some tightness, well, then work on your flexibility and move around. Look looser when you go to Indy and you go to your pro day. But again, tape is 90% of it. I really feel like the combine is a little overblown. It's great for TV and the NFL Network and all that. But when you're coming from a team's perspective, the combine's important for 2 things: the medical evaluations and the interviews. There's so much data technology out there now where we know how fast these guys play on a football field that I really think in a few years here, the 40 stuff will be obsolete. I don't even know if we'll be running them anymore. Just because the field speed stuff is now readily available. It's a lot more important how a guy carries his pads on a football field than how he runs a 40 in shorts. So to me, it's just go up there, interview well, and apply whatever you've done in your training on the field. But again, I think 90% of it's what they do on a football field, not what they do in shorts.
One more note. Xavier Newman-Johnson, the offensive lineman, he was at the Shrine Bowl, and he had a good week. He's not going to the Combine. Do you feel like that's something will they add somebody late in the process as well? Is that the possibility, or is he just going to have to just kick on pro day?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be pro day. They're not going to have any late ads. I actually talked to the director of the Combine earlier today, and they're done. What they released today is their list, and so there's no chance of being late ads. But that's fine for a guy like Xavier. He'll have his pro day. I'm sure he had a good week out at the Shrine game, connecting the teams. There was a lot of teams out there for that event, so he'll be fine. He'll be fine. There's 325 guys invited to the Combine. I think I saw, almost. 75 of those guys, 50 of those guys won't get drafted. And there's going to be a ton of guys that don't get combine invites that will get drafted. I mean, I think we had 8 guys in our game. That didn't get combine invites who, just talking to my guys around the league and my friends around the league that helping put our roster together. I feel like all 8 of those guys are slam dunk draft picks. So, they force a lot of juniors that come out that probably aren't draftable, take up a lot of spots at the combine just because the NFL needs to learn those guys better. So if you're a junior and you come out, you're getting a combine invite, whether you're a draftable player or not. That's just how it works. So those guys take up a lot of spots for those seniors.
Jim, thank you. Always love the insight, the passion, and information, background, and stories as well. Appreciate your time. Great job. Another great Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy, the executive director, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I mentioned Georgia had the most players invited to the Combine, 14, Alabama, Oklahoma 11. Among the Big 12, Oklahoma 11, Baylor 7, Iowa State 6, Oklahoma State and Texas Tech with 3. Texas has 2, Kansas State, TCU, and West Virginia 1, and Kansas did not get somebody invited to the NFL Combine.
That number for Texas is one that they desperately need to get up because their recruiting rankings are not translating to NFL players.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a great number considering the way they've recruited for, many years in a row. I mean, especially when you compare it to Oklahoma, they've got 11. Compare Baylor's recruiting classes to UT's and Baylor, and they know it's timing too. Like, a lot of those guys for Baylor came back for a fifth year. Yeah. And so that certainly made that a bigger class than it was originally intended to be. And I saw some OU fans who are already counting down the days of the SEC and bragging about the number that they have and what the Big 12's number is going to be when they leave. And I don't know, it's going to go down, no doubt. You lose Oklahoma and Texas. With Texas, they'd be replaced by Cincinnati's numbers rather easily. So that wouldn't, in this particular year, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But there'd still be a gap because of the amount that OU has. But OU's not going to put 11 guys out every year either. That's also a timing thing. They had some guys come back, so that's a big number. 11 guys, that's a huge number to have in this draft. It kind of makes this past season, I would think, even that much more disappointing, quite frankly, that you had 11 guys going to the Combine and you didn't make it to the Big 12 title game. But we know there was a lot of extracurricular stuff as well going on there in Norman, Oklahoma. So, yeah, I love the insight. He obviously is very high on the 4 Baylor guys that he got to see. The Terrell Bernard thing's very questionable and strange. The injury running, practicing 40s before going out there. That, in hindsight, was probably not a very good decision. So hopefully Terrell...
And you wonder who pushed that, whether it was him pushing himself or a trainer.
Yeah, and maybe he's just doing it. Maybe he didn't think anything of it and didn't realize that it wasn't a very smart move. I don't know. But obviously it was not a smart move in hindsight. We can say that rather easily. But yeah, good to hear positive reports on those guys. And it's a long journey still to go. With the Combine, like he said, it's maybe not as much of a big deal as it was, but, still got a couple months to improve your stock.
We have seen Kansas go down this week. We've seen Duke go down this week. We've seen Auburn go down this week. And someone who was at that game last night with Arkansas and the win at home in front of a record crowd at Bud Walton Arena, well, he's going to join us next. Scotty Bordelon of WholeHogSports.com. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com can help you save money and also find out evidence of what hurts you so much to a point where you can't sleep well. You can't function in your work, and it could be, and I've had a torn rotator cuff, and maybe you've had one, and you see people walking around with those slings on. That's kind of like that protective sling. And it hurts, and it will shut you down. It will be painful, and you feel like you want to take more than just Advil or any kind of Tylenol. So if that's what is bothering you, maybe something in your shoulder, could be your knee, a ligament or a muscle, it hurts, it's torn, shredded, or whatever else in between. Ideal MRI can find out exactly what the problem is, and if you've been to a doctor that say, hey, we need to get evidence, an MRI, Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco has the state-of-the-art technology, MRI machine to do that for you. I've been in it. And also save you money, $497 or less every single time, and that's less than half of what the average MRI cost at $1,100. Also, don't forget, again, a great step, Teresa the manager, Marcus, Wendy, and Cheryl are the MRI techs, and Dr. Rob Maxey, one of the partners at IdealMRI.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
So watching last night, and I didn't watch the entire game, but I kind of kept up with Arkansas at home. Bud Walton Arena was packed. Number 1 Auburn, of course, has been rolling and beating people up. On occasion, they've been pushed. And then I started watching the end, goes into overtime, and Arkansas wins it 20,000, 327,000. Nolan Richardson Court was flooded. And, well, you know what we do? We find the stories from either the day of or the night before. And Scotty Bordelon joins us, WholeHogSports.com, who was there, took pictures, was a part of it. Scotty, what was it like?
Oh, man, that's a pretty loaded question. It was one of the more remarkable nights in the history of Bud Walton Arena. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, the building's been open since 93-94 season. I should preface this with, I'm a pretty young guy. I'm 28. So when the game ended last night, I leaned over to one of the guys that I work with who's, been covering Arkansas basketball for several decades now. And I asked him just, where do you feel like this night ranks in the building's history? And the only games that he could really point to that might exceed it were, the big blowout win over Missouri. I think it may have been the second game that Arkansas played in Bud Walton, and then he pointed to the 99 win over Auburn when Auburn was number 2, and then I think it was last night. I mean, it was pretty incredible start to finish. Like, students were on Monday afternoon, they started lining up to get the best get in line to get the best seats available when the doors open Tuesday evening, about 4:30. It was. I think Arkansas and its fans they really seized the moment and kind of made it one of the more unforgettable atmospheres that I think Arkansas's had in Bud Walton.
Scotty, this is a team, Arkansas, that early this year, maybe people thought they'd lost a little bit of their luster coming off their deep NCAA tournament run last year. But are they starting to maybe come around a little bit more the last couple of weeks?
Oh, for sure. I think you don't have to go any farther than, this team finally found an identity, and it's on the defensive end of the floor. I can't help but think back to, mid to late December, I traveled down to North Little Rock, and Arkansas was hosting Hofstra. I can't even remember what conference Hofstra's in, but Arkansas lost to them. And they just got picked apart in middle pick and roll by a guy that he transferred from Arkansas to Hofstra, and he played like 2 minutes over 2 seasons, and then he went for like an 18-point, 14 rebound double against Arkansas. And I didn't think Arkansas was going to recover from that. They didn't have a sense of identity whatsoever. And then they start 0-3 in the league, and Eric Musselman just kind of has a heart-to-heart with himself, and he asked himself what his dad, his late dad, Bill Musselman, would do. And the answer he kind of came up with was, go big and get tough. And, he rolls out a lineup against Missouri that's basically his best guard. And J.D. Note, I think, is one of the more underrated players not only in the SEC, but the country. And then he put 4 forward-type guys around him. One of them ended up getting hurt in that game and missed a few games after that. But, he put Stanley Amude in that spot, who's one of the nation's best scorers at South Dakota the last several years. And they've taken off ever since. Like, they're just night in, night out defending incredibly well. And I think one of the things that kind of tells you the elite level defense that Arkansas is playing lately, the last 2 teams that have come in to Bud Walton are Mississippi State and Auburn. They've both been number 1 in SEC games in offensive efficiency, and Arkansas has held both teams to their 3rd worst offensive efficiency rating of the season. So they're defending at a pretty unbelievable clip, and getting pretty good contributions from guys beyond J.D. Note and Jalen Williams, who's I think kind of made his star turn over the last month.
Is Eric Musselman walking around shirtless today?
I would probably bet he's got a shirt on. But
that was cool last night, though. I mean, he obviously just totally embraced the pandemonium and the fun and the excitement. I mean, what's it been like to cover him? And, how have Arkansas fans kind of wrapped their arms around him the last 2-3 seasons?
Oh, man, I think it's a love-love relationship when things are going good. But, Eric's he is a man of the people. There's no doubt about it. Like, even Tuesday afternoon, he was out mingling with some of the students who were in line waiting to get into the building. And they struck a deal that, if Arkansas won, that he would take his shirt off, and he followed through on it. So he's a man of his word too. But he's been really fun to cover. He's been awful good to me, and he's winning. And I think Arkansas fans love that. And the last 2 years, Arkansas has gotten off to kind of rough starts in SEC play, and people have kind of, I know a lot of people kind of, I don't know if they completely gave up on this team and last year's team after those rough starts, but man, he just finds a way to figure things out. And that stretch where Arkansas lost 5 out of 6 games in December and early January, that feels like a year ago. I mean, this team's just rolling, and I think he's got some things figured out. And Arkansas has gone from a team that's they were on the next 4 out in Joe Lunardi's bracketology to somewhere maybe along the 7 line, and it's been a pretty remarkable turnaround.
Yeah, and remember last year's run, they were so good, and it's when they stormed the court and he was a part of that, and Craig brought that up. I heard him in the interview. He was talking in the post-game interview. Did he get his shoulder bumped or something? Because he looks like he's had that the rotator cuff type surgery.
Yeah, he has. So I think it was back in early December. He jumped into one of Arkansas's defensive closeout drills, and one of the guys that he's got in the starting lineup now, Trey Wade, he looks like an SEC type linebacker. I mean, he's 6'6" and probably 225, 230. He landed on Eric and messed his shoulder up pretty good. And the day after Arkansas beat Missouri, earlier in January, he got rotator cuff surgery. He missed the game at LSU. Keith Smart served as Arkansas's interim coach in that game, but Eric only missed one game. And so ever since that LSU game, he's been on the sideline with that big bulky shoulder brace on, but he hasn't skipped a beat whatsoever.
All right, so looking at the standings, you got Arkansas right now at third in the SEC at 8-3. 7 games remaining, a couple of road trips coming up here against Alabama and Missouri. How do you kind of view the Razorbacks in their standing right now, and what are you looking at as they get into the nitty-gritty of closing out this regular season?
Yeah, I think Tuesday was a big start, man, because Arkansas, when they made their run in January, there's the Missouri, South Carolinas, Ole Misses, and Georgias of the league that you beat them and you're not going to make much noise doing that. But I think beating Auburn gives this team even more of a momentum boost going into the final stretch of the season. I think Alabama is going to be a really, really tough game on Saturday. I know it's an 11 a.m. tip off, so it won't give Alabama fans as much time to get juiced up for that game, but they'll still be there and loud. But the way this Arkansas is defending lately, I think they've got a shot. Like, they can hang in every game. And I know the easy thing to say, coming off a high like Tuesday, is that, Arkansas is kind of due for a letdown. But I think Eric and his staff are really, really good at getting their guys' attention. They probably spent a lot of time in meeting today, flushing the win last night. Like, last night was incredible. It was remarkable. You deserved your kind of out of body, release from winning that game. They deserved it. You got to flush it because there's lots of good teams left on your schedule. But I give Arkansas a fighter's chance in every game, better than that in some of these games that I'm looking at. But I don't have any doubt that they can definitely compete down the stretch because they have found their identity. They're tough and they're going to defend, and it always helps when you've got the SEC's leading scorer on your side. Yeah,
22nd in Ken Palm's ranking. There were thoughts, like you said about a month ago, did they have enough juice and just being a part of the conference eventually strengthens that out just like it does in the Big 12 as well. Texas had the big win they needed against Kansas on Monday. Arkansas, it's not like they were going to miss the tournament, but the win against, obviously, Auburn sure does help quite a bit. We appreciate the time. Be a part of that. At the age of 28, being able to already cover something like that had to be fun.
He wasn't alive when they last did the Beatlet #1 in 1984.
And we've discussed that, Scotty. I love that. That was the all white, the whiteout, whatever you want to call it. There was one moment, and I don't know if anyone else caught this, at the end of the game when, was it Arkansas dunked? Did they dunk at the end of the game? And there was an Auburn player underneath, and thank God, and the guy was upset. They lost, and you could see there was a little bit of, but it stopped. Somebody ended that quickly. Thank God that didn't turn out to be worse than it did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Devontae Davis, he's got a little bit of flair to him, and Jalen Williams grabbed that rebound on Auburn's final miss and kicked ahead to Devo, and he bounced. He basically bounced and ooped to himself, and he threw it down. Didn't count, but yeah, Wendell Green wasn't the biggest fan of that. And there's been some pretty good photos going around of Devo hanging on the rim and Wendell Green wishing that he could stop it. It was an unbelievable atmosphere. It was a hornet's nest in there, and a lot of times I think sometimes crowds can maybe get overblown in how much impact they actually have on a game. But I literally think Auburn missed its last 9 free throws that it took, and I remember one point in in the second half. Walker Kessler stepped to the line, and I think Auburn was down a point or two, and he misses the first free throw badly when it was just at a fever pitch, and I think it literally legitimately rattled him. He ended up missing two more in overtime, and Katie Johnson missed 2 out of 2 later in the second half. I mean, it was just one of those atmospheres I'll never forget, and it could be another couple like that coming up, as Arkansas still got Tennessee and Kentucky at home on Saturday, so those should be pretty fun.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Scotty Bordelon covers Arkansas, the win against Auburn, WholeHogSports.com. So you had the Texas game, Kansas, and we brought that up yesterday and discussed it quite a bit. But one of the things that really was like shocking in that game, not that Texas won the game, they outscored Kansas 9-0 down the stretch. And Kansas, Braun, great free throw shooter, missed a couple of free throws in that game.
Turnover late was really bad,
yeah,
too.
I mean, and they had the alley-oop that would have put them up pretty much, maybe the dagger, and it kind of deflected off the rim. They didn't get that down. Abaji was right there to do that. So you have that, and you have Arkansas beating number 1 Auburn. That's why Baylor tonight going into Manhattan, Bramwich, crazy crowd, atmosphere, take care of business against a team that is upset because you embarrassed them the last time you played, and they have to win because of their record at 12-10. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. When we come back, an interesting story involving Jim Irsay and the Super Bowl. He's had things said about him. He's had himself a couple of bad moments, but a pretty cool deal of what he's doing. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem. You hear me talk about it all the time. Their customer service is second to none. The speed of the drive-thru window, second to none. Their selection, also second to none. Whether it's high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Bardstown, they've got all those at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They've got the best selection of craft beer in Waco. And again, like if you walk in there and looking for a gift for somebody or looking for, hey, I'm going to this, I'm not a wine person. I need a good wine. I need, my friend likes vodka. What's a good vodka? Whatever it is, believe me, they will point you in the right direction. And if you're looking for something that they maybe don't even have, they can tell you when they might be getting it in or why or what the distribution is. They have all the answers to pretty much everything that you could want at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTN Electric, see dealer for details.
The New Year, New Ride sales event continues at Richard Carr. Find pre-owned deals like a 2015 GMC Acadia or a 2016 Honda Accord for $227 a month. Or get a 2019 Ram Tradesman truck for $333 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection. Get top dollar for your trade, and 100% approval is always the goal. Find your next car or truck today at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is it. This is when you're going to sell something in May. You have Mother's Day. You have Easter. You have things that go on, weddings. But this is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday, and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Sports bettors, it is that fantastic time of year. The NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, college basketball, the NBA, all of that coming up right now, and with great action at BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. And right now, for just $50, you can get in with our promo codes, SICK'em125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'em200, that's a 200% bonus on crypto. So go to BetUS.com today. $50 gets you a 125% bonus on cash or 200% on crypto with our promo codes, SICK'em125 and SICK'em200. That's at BetUS.com.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, Jim Irsay. Paul, who is he?
He's the owner of the Colts.
I've got 4 Super Bowl tickets returned to me. I need some hardcore Rams fans to tell me why they should go. 2 winners talked to me, which was really pretty cool. And so I'm thinking that's got to be great. And then he also says this, sending a young Colts fan from Riley Children's Hospital and a young Bengals fan from Cincy Children's Hospital to the Super Bowl, all expenses, not just because they're both terrific and courageous kids. Each has overcome major hurdles, but also because each of these hospitals do incredible things.
Well, good for Jim Irsay. He's an owner I'm very entertained by. I think he's made some silly moves over his career, I think, as most people with a bunch of money have. But I've always been very entertained by Jim Irsay. I know that in Baltimore, they hate his father really badly because he moved the Colts out of town. But I've always been entertained by him.
Did y'all know about his extensive memorabilia collection?
No.
Yeah, he's got, he just recently, as a matter of fact, he bought Muhammad Ali's robe from his 1965 Muhammad Ali robe from his rematch with Sonny Liston. It was a bright red robe with Muhammad Ali on the back, and Jim Irsay just added that to his Irsay collection, which actually has its own Twitter account. So you can actually, I guess, see all of his collection. But it made me think of, like, if you could pick any legend and, like, an item that you would want to add to a collection. Like, Irsay's got that type of money where they collect, like, swords from the Civil War and, like, crowns from Old England. You know, like, they've got go F you money, basically. But if you could just, like, a Roberto Clemente's bat from whatever, like, that'd be interesting to hear people's thoughts. If you could just add anything from sports history to your collection. Because he's got a lot of it, apparently, including this new Muhammad Ali robe that he just added. So that's pretty cool.
Mine would be lame. Comparatively, it would be Doug Minkiewicz's glove from when he caught the final out of the 2004 World Series.
Okay.
That's what I would want. It's the happiest sports memory I have.
That just went straight to your brain.
That's the one. Like, if there's one thing, you know, look, everybody could say Michael Jordan's tennis shoes or, you know, but
I'm trying to think.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably a couple cowboy things, but
Joe Frazier wore these kind of almost speckled green, kind of highlighter-looking trunks when he fought Ali in the first fight in 1971. And I just always thought that was pretty cool. Ali he was patented the white with the black stripe down the side.
Just looked at a couple of notes on his Wikipedia page as far as his collection goes, and some of it's non-sports related, and that's probably where I'd come in. Like a Hendrix guitar or something like that would be really cool, but he's got a lot of different things, including like Jacques Chirac, notes and tracing paper, and like he's got a bunch of those. He's got guitars from Elvis and McCartney and Lennon and Harrison, so 3 of the 4 Beatles. Jerry Garcia, Prince. He's got Les Paul's 1954 Black Beauty. So yeah, that dude's got quite the collection. That'd be a cool room to walk into, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know like what mine would be either, because there's so many different ways you could go with that. And I don't even know if I'd like, the first thing that pops in my head is like Dirk Nowitzki's jersey from beating the Heat, like something like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of a vintage dude as well. I might be tempted by, if you could just pick anything, like some of the former athletes that I didn't even get a chance to see. I wasn't even alive yet. It would be kind of cool. Like a bat from Babe Ruth or something like that would be cool.
The Big 12 announced a public reprimand and fined Texas because of the court storming. In accordance with the Big 12 sportsmanship, $25,000. Our institutions have a duty to ensure an environment. I guess Baylor would have got fined after the Oklahoma game. So this is something. And one of the responses, I'm sure, from UT is $25,000?
Del Conte pulled that out of his pocket and threw the gum wrapper out of the way.
Like some of your family does when they're paying off something.
Flicked the lint off and then handed it over.
Had a rubber band around it.
No big deal.
But the reprimand, and I got to tell you, and I've brought this up on the show, I thought Nikki Collin, after the game, what was it, the Oklahoma game, I thought maybe, and I don't know, we could have asked Mac yesterday, I didn't, and I wonder if you get a technical foul like Scott Drew did and you are on the court, whether or not there is anything to that. And, of course, coaches have done that before. It wouldn't be the first time. And it's not that they storm the court. It's not that you storm the field. It's just that, like Arkansas, they'll get fined. They'll be fined.
Yeah.
It's
part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Not a big deal.
And you know what? I'm sure that's not a big deal. I think Texas had a great time Monday night. Good for them for enjoying it, like Baylor did when they beat Oklahoma, and then they stormed it twice, especially with Lincoln Riley now on his way, or not on his way.
That's the moment that endeared Dave Aranda to people outside of Waco, Texas, for sure. I mean, that was the game that everybody went from, there were certainly issues going on in Oklahoma. Like, you could tell at the time and in hindsight, Lincoln Riley had that really weird, mysterious personal trip that he took days before, and there was just a lot of weird going on. But yeah, when he drug Lincoln Riley's butt and that team out of the locker room to kick that field goal, that was just I know Oklahoma fans hated it, but that was just such a chef's kiss moment for Dave Aranda. That was just amazing.
The thing that makes it sting more for Oklahoma fans is 4 hours later, it turned out being completely pointless.
Yeah.
Because of what happened in the game later on.
Didn't matter at all.
Two moments.
It was funny at the time.
But he didn't know that at the time.
And again, I'm sure you get upset if that would have been the other way around, whatever. But his reaction to it was it's like the end of the game against Oklahoma State. Those are the shorts. I'm looking at a video of Allie and Frazier won. I would pay some. I mean, I'm not going to pay too much.
Those are green and yellow,
but they are. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful trunks. Allie was wearing red. In that case, the red with the white stripe. Most of the time, he wore the black with the white with the black stripe. All right. Also tonight, I mentioned Baylor, Kansas State. It's 2 teams. Baylor men on the road. They're already there, Manhattan tonight. And the women play at home against Kansas State. Both tip at 7, and both games are on ESPN+. You can't – I saw someone say you could put the game on your TV. Paul, I know we got to take a break here.
Yeah, Scott, with an app. It's easy.
How do you do that?
With an app. I mean, you just have to do
I know, but it's on my phone?
No, you just get you have a smart TV or a Fire Stick or a Roku or – any number of different devices that can a PlayStation and Xbox that have the ESPN app, and you go to the ESPN app.
I'm 62 years old, and I know what some of them are, but getting that to I've got this big, beautiful flat screen and one underneath of it. I don't know how to get it to that.
So you don't have apps on those flat screens?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, dear God. I'm not. Emery, you're the intern. I've done this for too many. You're going to go and teach this old fogey how to use apps.
Yeah, I mean, just go to Best Buy and buy a Roku or an Apple TV, and it's pretty simple. I mean,
why would I want to buy another TV when I have this?
It's not a TV. It's how to get apps.
It's like an Amazon Fire Stick, and you just put it in there, and then you get your apps.
What are you laughing at, Armstrong? You're in the doghouse. We haven't even talked to you. We'll have Scott Drew from Monday here in a minute. So what are you laughing at?
You know what Apple TV is.
No, I swear to God.
I think he does play coy on some of this stuff.
I've heard of it. I understand what it is.
You know that Apple TV. You don't know that it's not it. You know that it's not an actual.
No, I do not. I do not know. That.
It's a little box that you plug into your TV.
It's like it's like having a cable box basically, except for very small in comparison to these big bulky boxes that they have now, and it's the same thing. And you just switch your HDMI to HDMI 2 because that's what it's plugged into, and it'll pop up, and there's the apps, and you got to download the apps that you want and sign into them. But yeah, it's streaming. You probably need to get caught up on that at this point because this is not new. This is years old.
What about my Spectrum?
I mean, it still has
nothing to do with it.
Here's the thing. With your Spectrum, though, with your cable subscriptions, there's a lot of apps that you can use without paying for them. So that's why it's also good.
So I don't know if you have a smart TV or not. Like, I don't even know. If you do, then you don't even have to
Emery's about to find out. He's going over to Smokey's house
Paul's
later.
going to come over while he's there.
No,
you know what he's going to do? He's going to fix my printer.
Nope, that's Emery also. I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone.
I always pay you with big, thick, 1.5-inch bone-in ribeyes. That's my payment.
I'm really glad you qualified that last part with the steak. But
oh my God!
I do think though. I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone lately, and they have the cowboy hierarchy. There's a low man, and that's unfortunately for Emery, it's him. So he's the one who has to deal with that.
That's a great series. I'm glad you're watching that. I'm surprised that I watched that before you ever did.
Yeah.
The 1983 or whatever, 1880. That didn't catch me enough. The one that was a spinoff.
I actually like that one better.
Yeah, it didn't.
I can't really compare it to my. I've watched maybe like 4 full episodes of Yellowstone in my life. It's one of those I just catch it and I either get pulled into watching the rest of it but I don't seek it out. What is it, 1883? Is that the name of it? I always get the year wrong.
Yeah, and it's always on, what is it? I don't know. It's not National
Paramount.
Paramount, yeah.
And I've seen a couple full episodes of that, but beyond like the first couple I haven't. So I can't really judge it on much, but based on the couple that I saw, I did prefer it over Yellowstone, but I haven't stayed with either one of them. But I know obviously a lot of people have because Yellowstone was like #1 TV series in the country or whatever.
And I think what happened, someone on the text line, because they asked me being the entertainment critic, is that they asked me about, do you feel like they've changed because it became so popular they were trying to bring other people in? Like the Super Bowl is not because the numbers because of football, it's because it's an event that anyone watches and feels comfortable with, and they kind of went a little sideways. I still love I love the series.
I read something I thought was interesting the other day. So the 2 most talked about shows on the internet over the same time because the new seasons were on at the same time were Succession on HBO and Yellowstone on Paramount. Succession has a lot less viewers, but it has like 700 podcasts dedicated to people talking about the show. Yellowstone has like 5 times as many viewers and 2 total podcasts.
Oh, is that right? Well, it's one. You know me. I don't stick. There's not many series that grab my attention. There just aren't. Well, but Yellowstone was something. I put a reminder on my phone at 6:45 every Sunday night that it was coming on.
By the way, the creator, Taylor Sheridan, from right down the road here, Cranfill's Gap, Texas.
Cranfill's Gap, a 6-man school.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, Scott Drew from Monday, and a lot, of course, what Baylor's been dealing with, the 4-4 record since the 15-0 start. We'll have that. John Machota at the bottom of the hour on the Cowboys in the NFL week, the Super Bowl in L.A., and anything new with what's going on with Cowboys decision-making coming down the pipeline, and Paul Catalina's Top 5 Sick'em. 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So let's say you have had some issues with your body. Your sex drive is not what it used to be, or you're really struggling with any kind of intimacy. So what can you do? Contact Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com. You can go online, email and phone number in the top left-hand corner. Contact Dr. Petty and his staff and tell him I sent you. And what he can do is set you up with lab work, get your blood results, and look at many things. Your PSA count, also your testosterone level, and if the testosterone level is too high, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, and not just in the bedroom, but also with your focus and your energy and your sleep habits and more and productivity. pettycliniclowt.com.
This month, it's all about the championship drive as our hometown team celebrated the Big 12 championship and a Sugar Bowl win. So can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. During the President's Day sales event, shop for power, performance, and reliability from our selection of the new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star. Are you planning your next adventure? Choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Altmaier batted and intercepted. And it's Walcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire, Sikkim Bears. How about it?
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's
It's very unique. We're now joined by Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach. We've got a cat that looks like it could play point guard.
Well, we could have used them on last Saturday.
Scott, we've all known you for a long, long time. For you to get to that point Saturday where you were that frustrated across the board, and I know you'd mentioned something about 19 years at Allen Fieldhouse. I got to ask you that, did you want to get, I know you wanted to get a technical, did you want to get ejected and just have to walk away from there?
No, I didn't want that. I did want,
sometimes you always watch the previous year's game, and watching that and clipping some things just brought back some memories that I didn't like. And as you know, it's a tough enough place to play up there. So I'm not trying to say anything that would lead to a fine, but at the same time, I know you have to clearly win up there, and I don't know how I can tread that any finer without getting in trouble. But I think that just from watching last year's game and then the frustration of that game, and again, the officials did not cost us that game at all. So when you get beat like that's on us. Starts with me as the head coach. But as far as I know, we officiate every day in practice too now. So I know that I'm not good enough to get paid, but there's certain things that we do see. And the great thing about computers and slow-mo is if you're right after the game. And I know you can't officiate in slow-mo, but it's not like you make up stuff when you can see things in slow-mo either.
Coach, do you, when you do have to get a tech or, kind of show some passion, I know you have to leave that club kind of way in your bag, but did you know that Saturday was the time to use it to maybe also help fire up your team, which was listless at that moment? Sometimes you do that to motivate your team, and other times, just frustration gets the best of you as a coach, because coaches are human as well. With that, I think probably all of the above kind of led into it. And at the end of the day, watching the game film after, and just like I told the reporters, I mean, it starts with me, because if the guys aren't ready to play and don't perform at a level that meets the skill set God's blessed them with, that's on me. So I was more disappointed in myself, just because of the way we played, because I know we're better than that. But at the same time, as you know, in this league, you've got to have a short memory, and you focus too much on that last game, you got no prayer for the next game. And I think college basketball, you see that all the time. You saw UCLA lose a heartbreaker to Arizona, and then turn around and lose another heartbreaker to Arizona State. And you saw Kansas play one of those games that they probably were a little embarrassed against Kentucky, and then they came back the next couple games and played really well. You saw us play against Alabama, and we didn't feel good with that performance. We came back and played well against West Virginia. So hopefully this is a learning experience that sometimes you got to put your finger on a hot stove to know that you can't touch a hot stove anymore. And in this league, if you're not bringing it each and every night, you will get embarrassed. And we got embarrassed. And it's been, since 2018, since we've been embarrassed like that. So we apologize. I apologize to Baylor fans. And we'll do enough. Not saying Kansas isn't a great team and didn't play well and whatnot, but I know our effort I wasn't happy with. I know our team wasn't. So that's on me to make sure we don't have another one of those experiences. And we might get beat by 30, but it'll never be because, or should never be by our effort. Yeah, and I know this is kind of a difficult question, but I think it's a fair question because it was just across the board bad. Did you see anybody you had to have any specific talks with? The film doesn't lie. I saw you make that comment as well, where perhaps there were some that just maybe didn't have it, or in a way not quit on the team, but just stop playing.
Well, I think it'd be easier to go the other way. Who didn't?
Okay.
who did play well, and again, as the great philosopher Mike Tyson always says, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face. And we got punched, and we've been punched before, but we've come back. We got knocked out, and the one thing that the rebounding part really hurt us in the first 13 minutes of the game. We did finish with 17 offensive rebounds. They only finished with 11. The difference is they scored 20 points off of theirs. We only scored 13. The transition points in the rebounding in the first half, 15 and 15, 30 of their 39, definitely was the difference. And our half-court defense wasn't bad. Just we never had a chance to be in it. So the first thing I looked at was transition defense. What can I do a better job as a coach, preparing our guys to change what we did in practice today? And moving forward, we'll do some things different to hopefully put our guys in a better position to be successful with that facet of the game.
Scott, that is a tough place to play. Did you feel kind of I think when Christian Brown had that dunk, it was just like the place went on fire. How do you get out, like outside of just getting hot? Is that the only way you can get out of a place like that where you have to shut the crowd up? Because once they just caught the other day.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of places where, the week before we showed up to Alabama, and an hour and a half before the game, there was a longer line than there was at Kansas to get in, and it's all students. And so, I mean, it's any place that you let players and teams get in transition and get easy dunks and threes, and then you have give up offensive rebounds and putbacks. I mean, crowds recognize effort and recognize intensity, and we just gave them fuel to the fire to allow them to continue to be involved and in the game. But I mean, Kansas is as tough as any place to play, but there's a lot of other tough places. I mean, in the Big 12, each and every night, if we played like that, the crowds would do the exact same thing. Our goal and why we've been so successful prior to the Alabama and Kansas game on the road, I think we had one of the nations. I think it was the longest nation's win streak in the Power 5 on the road. And a big reason for that was because we did a good job keeping people out of transition, not turning it over and putting them in transition, and then a good job on the glass. But the last two efforts haven't been our best. And it's good teams, good programs, good players. We just have to raise our level. One thing that you take a step back and you look at, and I think we haven't had a lot of games this year where maybe our inexperience showed either. And I mean, at Kansas, the starting lineup, been there 4 years, been there 3 years, been there 3 or 4 years, 2 years. And we got a bunch of guys that are in that rotation right now they're all in their first year here. And that means first experience getting punched in the mouth like that, and first experience on the road in an environment like that when we did not play well. So hopefully these are learning experiences, and the good thing is hopefully you only have to learn once this way, because I know it only takes me once. I don't want this experience for a couple of years.
You just had practice. Did you see anything? Mm-hmm. Did you see the message had been sent?
And it's not, if you recruit the right players, the message doesn't come in a fashion of just or the film. I mean, it should be from within inside. I mean, at the end of the day, the players we have don't want to be embarrassed. Mm-hmm. They work hard to be embarrassed. So the good thing is, hopefully it's a teachable, willing spirit that, hey, I don't want this to happen again. How can I make sure it doesn't happen again? You know? And I know we had a great practice today. I've done this long enough to know sometimes you have great practices, you have great shoot-arounds, and the games are lousy, and vice versa. But I know we always like to go 1-0, and today we went 1-0. So we changed some things up. Again, it's never we prepare our players to be successful. Then they got to win the one-on-one battles, and if they're not prepared to be in those one-on-one battles, that's on us. So again, we tweak some things, change some things, and it's such a fine line. And what I mean by that is you don't want to get guys injured in practice. You don't want to get guys tired because you want to have fresh legs and healthy bodies come game time, but you don't want to not do enough that they're not able to be effective in the game. And sometimes it's that balancing act. And we've had so many guys banged up, it's been hard to do a lot of competitive things in practice because, as you know, you get in the ring with Tyson, you're alert because you know if you're not, you're going to get knocked down. You get in the ring with me, you can have your hands down and I'm not knocked down. You know what I mean? So it's when you have your top players healthy and competing against your other top players, iron sharpens iron. And when you're banged up and can't have guys in practice, the scout team is good, but at the end of the day, James going against Adam is the best way to make those two sharp.
One more thing you had mentioned, maybe Fran brought this up. Scott Drew with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, about a dog. Like an hour, you had guys, three guys in the NBA, one's in the NFL. They had been marinating and had been with your program, some for longer than others. Do you have a concern about who is the one that wants to be the dog that kind of people morph or migrate to as someone who can be the leader of this team?
Well, I think this year's team, obviously we have a lot of guys that, that last year's group were successful and then they returned. We have a lot of guys that, you lost 4 starters, so we have people that are returning, but it's new roles for them. And then we have new guys that have come in. Now, so every year you're going to have different type of leadership. I know when we've been healthy, we were 15-0, and the poll said we're the best team in the country, and I think we were the best team in the country. Since that time, we've been banged up. We're still playing without our leading scorer, and at the end of the day, when you play against the best, you got to have the best. And I think short term you can make up for things, but the longer things go, the more they get exposed too. And what I mean by that is you have a player out, you can cover one game, but 3 or 4 or 5 games you start to feel the effect of guys being out. We've had literally, James, Adam, Jeremy, and LJ. So those are 4 key players. And until we can get some stability where we can get everybody back. And again, it's a little different if you never have them. Like Langston, we never had at the beginning of the year. So you come up with, but it's hard when guys maybe can't get as many practice reps or don't get much practice, and then all of a sudden, if they can go, you're going to try to play them if they can be effective. And so, but then again, if you haven't practiced as much, your timing's a little off. Everyone else's timing with you's off. Your cardio's off. So, as you know, all of that matters. If you want to run your best race, you probably need to be healthy going into the race and had some really good practices leading up to it.
Scott, thank you. I know you just wrapped up practice. You got more to do. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your insight and the transparency as well to what's going on. And good luck the rest of the week. I know you've got Kansas State on the road and then Texas back home. And hopefully, and I know you've talked about this as the very first day I ever met you, and you are always gracious with the home crowd, whether it's the students or not. But hopefully you'll have people who on Saturday are here that give you an opportunity to perhaps be so intense that it does affect parts of the game outside of playing the game as well.
Amen to that. I appreciate it. And again, we will get healthy. We will get better. And as you know, everyone remembers to the ending. So the key is for us to be ready to play our best down the stretch here. And hopefully we can do that.
Thank you, Scott. Scott Drew, head coach of the defending national champion Baylor Bears, and also, of course, right now, number 9. I think I saw that number 9. They're number 10. That's right. It's Kansas 8, Texas Tech 9, Baylor at 10, Texas, and Kansas play tonight. UT is at number 20. He makes a good point. I know we got to get to the top 5. If you don't have, and by the way, he didn't get the technical foul. He's not blaming. I know I saw some Kansas chatter, and I get that because Kansas frustrated. Baylor won it all last year, and then 2 years ago, Kansas was really, really good again, and the season got shut down just like it did for Baylor and others and Gonzaga. I don't think there's any question, though. There's nothing wrong with him fighting for his team, and in fact, man, he's fortunate he was not ejected because he was on the court as far as he was, not just coaching during in games or whatever, and it was so out of character for him. I sat there and I went, what in the hell did I just see? That's where he was, and there's nothing wrong with him saying what he's saying, and Kansas beat the hell out of Baylor on Saturday.
All right, that was Scott Drew from Monday. They had just wrapped up practice. A couple of things he said, of course, was referring to the practice Monday. They are at Bramwoods tonight against Kansas State, and that was before Texas beat Kansas. As we mentioned a minute ago, they got fined $25,000 for storming the court. Not sure, Lester, on the question about L.J. Cryer. Not in Manhattan, not sure about that, and it's just been one of those things that it's just kind of annoying, and I'm sure it is for L.J. as much as anyone. When we come back, we'll hear from John Machota, Super Bowl week in L.A. The Cowboys have not been there in 27 years now. When they made that run of winning 3 out of 4, Super Bowl 27 was in L.A. at the Rose Bowl, and the Cowboys hammered the Bills to win the first of those 3 in 4 years. We'll talk to John about that. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you're going to have any kind of a Super Bowl party this weekend and you want something that you can have for maybe if it's just for your family sitting around or maybe a few family members or friends, Waco Custom Marketplace right now has opportunities for you to beef up literally what you need. Or if it's just for something special, a Valentine's dinner, select beef, choice beef, and prime beef fillets from $10.99 a pound all the way up to the prime beef fillets at $29.99 a pound. Maybe a big bacon wrap fillet for Valentine's Day. Bone-in pork butt for $1.35 a pound and a boneless pork butt for $1.99 a pound. Also, pork tenderloin medallions, $3.99 a pound. Jalapeno and cheese pork links for $3.75 a pound. And 10% off on all frozen shrimp. And they've got some dudes now that are huge, 2-pound bag, big jumbo shrimp with the tails only, already deveined, so that does take down the time of having to prepare and all that other stuff when you deal with shrimp. They have it available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me
examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Super Bowl 56 Sunday evening, Rams and Bengals. I mentioned this entering the break. Cowboys in Super Bowl 27 beat the Bills, then went to Atlanta, beat the Bills, and then 2 years later, of course, beats Pittsburgh in Arizona as 3 out of 4 years. It has started at the Rose Bowl in L.A. It's been so long. John Machota, theathletic.com. John, I ask questions sometimes to former players or whatever, but it's staggering. The Bengals are now in it. The Browns and Lions never have been. Houston, of course, never has been. And then right after that, it's crazy that Washington and Dallas are coming down the pipeline as the longest droughts of being and winning a Super Bowl.
It is crazy. I was just looking at that the other day, that I think it's down to like 6 teams in the last 25 years that haven't made an AFC or NFC championship game. Obviously, the Cowboys are in that. And then the Super Bowl, I want to say, I think it's at 11 now in the last 25 years. There's only 11 teams that haven't appeared in the Super Bowl in the last 25 years, so that's a third of the league. But so that means 2/3 of the league has at least played in one Super Bowl since the last time the Cowboys did. And if you look at a league that it's supposed to be parity-driven, it just would make no sense that the Cowboys don't at least get back to another Super Bowl over those 25 years. But, hey, we are.
John, it's draft time for the Cowboys now. I mean, that's what everything has to be because the playoffs have been long since over. Outside of offensive line, which is, obviously something they're going to have to work on, what do you think would be the biggest need that you would want them to get fixed?
Well, the offensive line, if you're just going by who's technically on the roster right now, but if they decide to part ways with DeMarcus Lawrence and somehow he's not on the roster, then I think edge rusher immediately gets put right at the top of the list for me. It's so hard to find quality edge rushers. Well, reason being, that's why I don't think it'd be a great move to get rid of DeMarcus Lawrence. But if that is to happen, that shoots right up there. Because, yeah, Micah Parsons can rush the passer, but Dan Quinn wants Micah Parsons on the field as much as possible. He doesn't want him to be just an edge rusher. He wants to use him, again, like a Swiss Army knife. And so even if you're able to bring back Randy Gregory, I just think edge rusher, you have to address that. You're losing Dorrance Armstrong. He's going to be a free agent. So out of the guys that saw significant playing or saw a decent amount of playing time, really the only person, if you lose Lawrence, is Terrell Basham that's coming back. And I mean, he's fine as a backup, but I don't think you want to go into the season with him as one of your starters. So that would certainly be on there. And then it kind of goes right back over the other side of the ball. If you tell me Amari Cooper isn't going to be on this roster, receiver gets pretty high on that list, considering that Cedric Wilson's a free agent, Michael Gallup. So those would probably be a few areas.
John, did you see any of the quotes from Michael Gallup? I think he must have been on Radio Row or something, but I saw some quotes from him a little while ago talking about how Dak had told him at the start of the season that he's not going anywhere. He's obviously dealing with the injury as well, and says he hadn't really heard much from the Cowboys. You get any kind of a sense of sort of how they view him at the moment, and obviously the injury does come into play a bit.
I apologize. My phone cut out. Which player said this?
Michael Gallup. He did an interview. I don't know exactly where it was or who it was with. I just caught it a little bit earlier. It might have been on Radio Row for all I know. But he's just talking about how Dak had been telling him from the start of last season that he wasn't going anywhere, that he wasn't Gallup going anywhere. Said he hasn't really heard much. But do you get any kind of a sense on sort of where they view him in the pecking order right now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't get a great sense just because of the fact of he has to recover from the surgery now, and who knows when he'll be back to. I don't think you can go into this next season going, these type of injuries have the surgeries for these type of injuries have advanced so much to where I think we can count on him week one. I don't think you can. I think if you get Michael Gallup back for another year, because I don't think he would sign a multi-year deal unless it's very team friendly. But let's say you get him back for another year, like you still don't know what you have until training camp. Like you can't bank on that when the draft comes around and free agency and things like that. So I feel like you have to almost do business as if you don't think you're going to have him back at least at the beginning of the season. So I haven't heard any update on that. But there's just a lot of cards to be played. If they're going to part ways with Amari Cooper, they certainly have enough money to bring back Cedric Wilson and Michael Gallup. But if they're going to bring back Amari Cooper, and I don't see how they have enough money for Michael Gallup or Cedric Wilson. And so one way or the other, I still feel like you're going to be addressing a wide receiver at some point in the draft. I'm not saying it'll be in the first or second round, but I feel like with the way this team goes about its business, this seems like a time when they would try and add another young wide receiver. And frankly, I think it's a position that it probably has the most depth from year to year in the draft, just with how much these colleges are using, 3 or 4 wide receivers in their offensive sets. Like you should still be able to find some good value at wide receiver in the 4th, 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seemed like at one point, and it was true, you have Cooper, you have CeeDee Lamb, heck, you had Gallup, Cedric Wilson makes plays, and I mean I've never seen a team with so many receivers, and now all of a sudden you look up and a lot of that could be gone completely to rebuild it. And I thought their wide receiving core was spectacular, even though at the end of the year it kind of shut down a little bit. Which of the potential free agents, maybe 1 or 2 names, John, and some might be more obvious than others, helped themselves the most this year with Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, Dalton Schultz is at the top of the list for me. I mean, you can say Randy Gregory because of the position he plays and putting together a full season like this, but Dalton Schultz really shot up the list. And to be, the type of pass catcher he turned into certainly wasn't what we were expecting when they drafted him and what he flourished into, being one of Dak's favorite receivers. I think he priced himself into an area where I think it's safe to say he's gone. I just think there's going to be a team that gives him a decent amount of money, and that's the thing. Like, if you can find a good pass catching tight end who's in the prime career like Dalton Schultz, I mean, there's not a team in the league that doesn't want a guy like that. It's so important to have a player like that. So he's probably the first one I go to. But yeah, I mean, Randy Gregory, just because at edge rusher, I know he's getting up there in age, but the wear and tear on his body doesn't match up with it with all the seasons that he's missed. And so when you start looking at that and just the value of what a guy that can get that consistently gets after the quarterback, that's got to be very high on my list too. I think if Michael Gallup would have stayed healthy, I think he was, just because of this receiver class in free agency, I thought he was going to make himself a lot of money. But that obviously didn't happen because of the injury. So yeah, Schultz for sure is one that stands out to me, and then Randy, and then if there was going to throw in one more, I would say third would probably be J-Ron Kearse. And the only reason he's third is just because the safety position doesn't command quite as much money as I think the other two will. I think that out of those 3, he's got the best chance of returning, and certainly with having Dan Quinn back, I think that improves those chances.
Do you think the salary cap issues that they have, which are not as bad as they have been in the past, but they're going to have to restructure and kick the can down the road on a few guys, will prevent them from maybe making a trade? Or, I mean, they're not ever really big in the free agent market, and don't expect them to, but like of doing something big to try to maximize Dak's window, because they're kind of maybe behind the 8 ball already now in that, because this year has come and gone, and they don't want to get into another situation like they had with Tony Romo where they wasted his window as well.
Right. And I think a lot of fans would agree with you and say that, yeah, it's time to go all in right now. And even if that means, having to kick it down the can down the road a little bit, wouldn't now be the time to do it? Dak's going to be 29 in July. Like, isn't this the time to do that? And And I think that it is. I think that, I mean, Jerry always wants to talk about how he's not getting any younger and how, he doesn't have time for a bad time. So this would seem like it. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. And I think there'll only be more if the Rams win on Sunday, because that's just not going to be a Cowboys thing. If the Rams win on Sunday, every team in the NFL outside of maybe the Bengals, their fan base, they're going to be talking about, look at how they went all in on it. Why don't we do the same thing? Why isn't our team going all in on the way that they did and made all those big moves? Who cares about what's going to happen 5 years from now? Let's go after it right now. And where the Cowboys are built in terms of, their head coach is a veteran head coach. They have this, they were able to luckily bring back their offensive and defensive coordinator. Your franchise quarterback is in the prime of his career. If this isn't the time to go all in for it, I don't know when is.
I feel like I'm glad you said that, because it was fun when Jerry was like that. It was fun back when they would go and try to hit the home run. And, of course, I know that the teams that won those Super Bowls in the 90s, for the most part, were internally driven through what they did with those trades in the draft. But Dion and Haley and some of that stuff, they went after those type of players, and it was worth it. If I asked you right now, how many maybe draft picks, I guess you would want to say first or second round picks, how many would you give up to win a Super Bowl? I'd say, how many you want? Would you? Paul, John, wouldn't you? Craig, wouldn't you guys? 5 of them.
That's the goal, yeah. I mean,
if I don't have
the Rams don't care about draft picks, and look where they are.
If they win it all, it's absolutely worth it, and it might be worth it even if they fall short again. But twice in recent years, to me, that's what it's about, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like, depending on what the player is, yeah, if it makes sense, I look back to the Amari Cooper thing, and even if that goes with them cutting him. Like, when that trade happened, you give up a first-round pick, but where that team was and how badly they needed that player, I thought that made total sense. And so if there's another opportunity like that, and I say opportunity because, the Rams are pretty lucky they got Stafford. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, for a franchise to be as bad as the Lions so that they have to let this guy go because they want to do right by him, the fact that you were able to get this guy in the prime of his career already on a loaded team, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's those opportunities all the time, but if those opportunities come, like the Amari Cooper did for the Cowboys, they absolutely should be willing to trade multiple premium picks. If it means you're going to get a star that's ready to come in right now and make an immediate impact, the way Amari Cooper did, the way Matthew Stafford has done this year, the way Odell Beckham has done for them, Von Miller, if you can get a guy like that, again, I just don't see it. If this isn't the time to do that, then when is? And if you don't do things like that, all it's going to do is it just puts more gasoline on the fire of those who believe that the Cowboys are fine with just being in the conversation. They're just fine. Hey, we don't want to, jeopardize the future or anything like that because we don't want to fall off a cliff like this Rams team. Let's be honest. This Rams team's probably falling off a cliff when Stafford's done. Aaron Donald's only got so many years left, and they're going to probably hit some bad times, or there's going to be 2 or 3 years where the Rams are probably one of the worst teams in the league. The Cowboys, there's a part of me that thinks that they're doing anything just so that they can avoid that. It's not about all going in right now. It's let's make sure we never in the foreseeable future are ever going to have to go off of a cliff like that and be bad for 2-3 years. Let's make sure we're just always in it every single year, whether that means 9-10 wins and give us a chance to make a run as opposed to doing what the Rams did. But like I said, the Rams win on Sunday. It's only going to increase that talk even more.
I wonder if Roy Williams and Joey Galloway have Jerry and Steven a little gun shy now because neither of those worked out at all.
That could be part of it, but I feel like Amari Cooper, I don't think you can judge him on that right now because Amari Cooper, if his contract was different, he'd still be here. I'm not saying he wouldn't be here. He's here right now. I'm saying that if his contract was different, we wouldn't even be talking about the potential of moving on from him. The way he's played, then they paid him the $20 million a year like a number one wide receiver, and obviously he didn't play that way this past year, and they didn't target him like one either. But I'd say that was a good move. I mean, to give up a late first round pick to get Amari Cooper, I don't know. And the other thing is too is I think that they did well in free agency. I thought they did well adding players in free agency. They have to trust Will McClay. So if he says, hey, this is a great opportunity, we have to go out and get this guy. Frankly, I don't care what happened with Roy Williams. They should go and do it.
All right, buddy. John, you got a pick for the game?
Everything that I feel like I see and everything that I read and everything that I know about football just screams Rams and, potentially the Rams by a lot. But this run Burrow's on, it's hard to go against. So I'm going to go Bengals 28-24. If like I said, I could see the Rams blowing them out. But if it's a close game, I'm leaning Bengals. And just the way these games, how great they've been, I think it's going to be a close game. I can't go against Burrow.
It's not. It's got to be in the conversation. Could be recency bias. John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. John Machota, theathletic.com, with all the great playoff games. Been 6 fantastic games for the most part. So you would hope that the Super Bowl can match the crazy of what we've seen with some of the weekend of the conference, semifinals, I guess you could call them. Divisional playoffs, is that right, Paul? And then the conference championships as well. So that's where we are. John Machota, we appreciate that from theathletic.com. When we come back, Paul Catalina, top 5 at 5:55, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Right now, Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Ted Teague. Hey, they have built up even the new car inventory, but also something that for some places just isn't right now very good. The used and pre-owned vehicles, they've bulked that up yet again on their dealership that's loaded up with cars, trucks, and SUV. Truck month started. Alan Samuels, you can get a 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $7,500 or as little as 0% financing for 72 months. And this month, first responders get an extra $500 as well. So come by and see what Ram and why they continue to win awards. Shop the huge new car and truck inventory in stock today at Alan Samuels. I told you a couple of weeks ago I test drove that Wagoneer Series 2. My goodness, it was amazing. The new 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, 2.9% financing for 72 months, plus $1,500 in bonus cash. It is a dog now. I'm telling you, that's an alpha dog. Is a term for me that means elite, that does what you want it to do. Again, new car inventory, used and pre-owned inventory has been bulked up and increased on the lot. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Go say hi to Ted Teague and his great staff. Tell him I sent you. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 potential... Top 5 under the radar potential Super Bowl difference makers. It's a long title, I'm sorry. But, you know, everybody's going to talk about Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford and OBJ and Cooper Kupp and
Jamar Chase.
They're going to talk about those people. But here are some people I thought players that could be, and some have been talked about, but maybe not as much. Number 5, Bengals kicker Evan McPherson. He's been so good all year long, a rookie kicker, and based on the way that all these games have gone, it's going to come down to one of these kickers, and Evan McPherson's been the one who's been absolutely money all year long.
What was he a draft pick?
Money Mac. Yeah. That's why his nickname's
He's a 5th-round draft pick.
When they drafted him, I guess, whenever, was it last year or the year before that, there were a lot of fired-up tweets about, why the hell did we draft the kicker? That's why.
You're in the Super Bowl because of him.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes to watch the draft and see, like, you know, kickers getting selected. It's like your recruiting class. Like, you're like, oh, this is the year that we have to take a kicker and bring our average down. You know what I mean? But then you need him, and you need him in a major way. And, yeah, they would not be in the Super Bowl without Evan McPherson. He's been a great story. He seems to be really beloved by his teammates as well. And, yeah, that turned out to be, you know, a joke at the time. Like, oh, a kick, you know, whatever. But, by the way, it could, you know, complain about it drafting a kicker. The Panthers, like, just cannot. Like, there's just nothing they can do right? I mean, the fans are just done entirely, it seems like, at this point. And so today they signed a long snapper or something, and they had drafted a long snapper. Like, it was this whole scenario of running a long snapper, and I was just like, this is, like, as low as you can go. When you're arguing about long snapper signings and, like, if they drafted wrong, or, like, that's about as good, but about as bad as it can get. But, yeah, I mean, he's been tremendous. Special teams don't get a lot of attention, but he deserves it.
Yeah. Number 4, Leonard Floyd, the 3rd best pass rusher of the Rams trio of Aaron Donald, Von Miller. Leonard Floyd, another one of their additions. He also falls, like, of the big-time Rams additions, because he's a free agent. He's a guy they brought in. He was with Chicago originally. He's someone who flies completely under the radar when it comes to, you know, noticing his contributions, but he is as dangerous, nearly as dangerous as the rest of the guys.
We were in Chicago, correct, when the Bears drafted him?
Yeah.
We were in Chicago for the NFL draft, and they loved that. I did. I thought, yeah, he's a tall, rangy player.
Yeah, really good player, but like you said, he gets overshadowed a lot by the other stars, like literally superstars on his side of the football. But no, yeah, Leonard Floyd's a great player. Chicago's loss was definitely LA's gain, and I'm sure he's there's so many stories that just on the Rams alone, and then the Bengals, like, obviously their history, like, none of their guys basically have been experiencing success as pros, but for the Rams, you know, a bunch of stars who maybe experienced success but now are having the most success they've ever had in some cases, and then a lot of other guys are just, you know, playing somewhere else, did okay, were pretty good, and now they're having the time of their lives. Matthew Stafford's the one that probably get mentioned most, but Leonard Floyd, another one of those guys.
Yeah, number 3, Rams tight end Tyler Higbee. There's going to be a lot of focus on Cooper Kupp. There's going to be a lot of focus on Odell Beckham Jr. and Tyler Higbee, and then person here would be Van Jefferson, the third wide receiver. Could see, especially when it comes into the getting first downs and big plays, you could see a lot of Tyler Higbee if whatever they're doing on Kupp and Beckham is working.
Yeah, but they've been wanting to stop them all year long. Yeah,
but I would say
he's a good.
But look, you've got the reason I say that is you have 2 weeks to plan for this game. A game plan and work on things. So sometimes guys you expect to be huge in the game because you have 2 weeks, they're out of the game because they worked on it. But because you worked on them so much, somebody else is open, and that to me, Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably hit him often in this game, and yeah, he's a really good player. I mean, they got so many weapons, but anytime you got a team with a great tight end, that's always, like in the NFL especially, it's always like a thing that can kind of take you over the top. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a solid player, and nobody had David Tyree being a Super Bowl hero or countless others over the years, but he's definitely a guy that probably not enough, are talking about or expecting to do big things, but very well could in this game coming up.
Yeah. Number 2, Cam Akers.
Hell of a story, man.
Yeah. I mean, he had those fumbles in the Bucs game, which were not good, but to come back from Achilles from July to now, he fell inexplicably. And I couldn't say
that word too.
Yeah, that word into the second round, and it's probably because he's a running back, but he was the best running back in the country the year he came out, based on the one stat of he had the most yards after getting hit in the backfield over anybody in the country, and it was like 506, and the next guy had 90. That's how good he was behind a really bad offensive line. He is going to be a really, really good player in the league. He's shown out already late in this year, and I think he could be a big factor in this game, especially if the Bengals might get after the passing game a little bit, because that's what they're going to focus on the most.
Yeah, he's going to have a big game. They're not going to throw it around all day long. I mean, I'm sure they'll try to. But, yeah, Cam Akers is a really good player, and I'm surprised, though, with his ties that you did not put him at number 1. Actually, kind of shocked.
No, number 1, especially given his ties. T. Higgins, Clemson. Yeah. Anyway, but T. Higgins, Jamar Chase has completely overshadowed him, but they have a really good 1-2 punch here just to make a comparison. I know that's not, fair, but in a Jerry Rice, John Taylor kind of thing going on here, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, where you can just throw the ball at anybody and you'll be fine.
Yeah. He's tall, and it seems like he could be frail, but he made some gutty
he's
catches.
Wiry.
Yeah.
Don't say he's wiry.
That's a good. That's a really good word for him.
Yeah, I really like T. Higgins. I think that when you have, especially because there's that's going to be one of those things. What if the Rams are like, look, we're going to put Jalen Ramsey on Jamar Chase, and that's going to be shut down? Well, what do you do with T. Higgins? How do you stop him? That's going to be a big one, and it's also probably going to help if C.J. Uzomah can play at all for the Bengals. Their tight end.
Last time I saw was pretty good news for him, right?
So but T. Higgins, I think, could be a big factor in the game.
All right, good stuff, Paul. Thank you very much. A quick note: we had John Machota talking Cowboys. We mentioned obviously some of their elite players. Jalen Ramsey, who's in the Super Bowl, made a list of the players he still watches tape on to learn from them too. Trayvon Diggs, Xavier Howard, the former Baylor defensive back, Marshawn Lattimore, Denzel Ward, Darius Slay, Kenny Moore, and Tyrann Mathieu. And so those are some names. That's from Sosa Kremenja.
It's from Jalen Ramsey, really, yeah. But, Sosa Kremenja tweeting that out. But, I mean, he said he could probably name others, but those are the ones at the top of his head. And, I see Xavier Howard there. Kind of I don't know, he's just kind of weird situation in Miami. I don't know. He makes plays, but then it's also just kind of an unsettled future there. I don't know. It's weird, but he's been a much better pro than I ever could have predicted, and he's been kind of carrying the torch for Baylor players in the NFL the last few years.
The Dolphins have organizational problems.
Yeah, I mean, they really do. They really do. And by the way, I don't know what turn this is going to take by tomorrow, but we got to talk about Brian Harsin and Auburn's move today.
We will.
To basically rewrite their policies to basically give themselves an out to fire him and not have to pay any money. That's starting to swirl around. And I don't know where it leads next. It could lead to Harson's firing. Could lead. It's definitely leading to like legal battles. Like that's for sure. This is Mike Leach, Texas Tech kind of situation, almost starting to brew. But man, this seems like it's inevitable that he's going to be out of there, and especially after the news today with this policy change up that Auburn did.
The policy change is that you have to cooperate with the investigation.
Yes.
Which Harsin has been able to avoid doing some of what information they want. Now they say that's a fireable offense, basically.
Effective
immediately the day before he got back.
February 8th of 2022.
Yeah.
What is today? February 9th. So they wrote this change yesterday and made it official. And so that's very interesting.
Last note, we didn't get too much into this. We could have and should have probably a little bit more. The transfer portal is now making it more difficult for people to get into it. Not as players to enter it, but those who can then view who's in it. Starting February 15th, a new authentication step will be required to access All My Apps application that contains the sensitive information. I wonder if this means Max Olson's unemployed.
No, it's not Max. I definitely think of a couple other names, though, that have been spitting out every single guy who's entered. And basically what was happening was you had guys that, just name a recruiting website or Twitter, personality, whatever. They were getting login credentials from coaches that they knew on staff and using their login credentials, and now they're not going to be able to do that because they're going to have two-factor authentication. So a lot of those guys that were just spitting out like so-and-so's into the transfer portal, they were using login codes, and now they won't have those. So I don't know if they'll find a way around that as well. But
you'll have to find somebody
who does that? The National Football League to get into all the credential parts, because I have to do that when I get to that point. ESPN announced their Big 12 baseball tournament or schedule. A lot of people upset because the Longhorn Network is 34 of those games, and ESPN's Use Next was 6. ESPN Plus is where you're going to find hundreds of baseball games from the Big 12. For Jack McKenzie, for Emory as well, Armstrong Sims back from the motherland of Spain. Tonight, Baylor, Kansas State, men and women at 7, ESPN Plus. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for those of you in the chat room, those of you who text us, and of course our sponsors every single day on this show. We hope we bring you entertainment, information, and you leave better than when you started. This is Sick of 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.